Chapter 786. A Genius Remembers Love in 1 Second? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. That's fine. In that case, let's head back first. We can come out for tea tomorrow. Night Sorrow nodded and put Enshi into the time pagoda. After pondering for a while, Night Sorrow decided not to shut off his soul power. That way, Enshi would feel estranged. He guessed that Enshi would also want to know the comments of Sikong Chuyu, Aoi, and Yang Lei. She's really beautiful, and her figure is so good that I can't say anything about it. Her curves should be perky. Our Night Sorrow doesn't just eat everything. Yang Lei said as she looked at Night Sorrow. Ninth senior sister, please don't discourage me. These days, my life has been really tiring. I don't know how to explain it to all of you, because this is equivalent to betraying all of you. I also don't know how to tell Auntie Faye, because I am a little despicable. Night Sorrow spoke of the pressure in his heart. In fact, during this period of time, Night Sorrow had not relaxed at all. I can understand you. Eating in secret and not daring to let others know. No matter how good the meat is, it's not comfortable to eat it, Sikong Chuyu said with a smile. Ninth senior sister, you've led Chuyu astray, Night Sorrow said to Yang Lei as he pulled Sikong Chuyu to his side. 13. If that she doesn't have any evil intentions, then treat her better. Her family has been destroyed and she has lost her freedom. It's not easy for her. Love go little say Kuaoi said. Night Sorrow nodded. Shi, who was in the space-time treasure pagoda, also let out a sigh of relief. She understood that her situation would be much better because Night Sorrow's 3 women were all pretty broad-minded. After drinking some tea, the 4 of them returned to the mansion. Aoi waved at Yang Lei, Sikong Chuyu, and Night Sorrow before returning to her attic. Night Sorrow brought Yang Lei and Sikong Chuyu back to the bedroom. Then, he sealed his soul energy. He didn't want Shi to know what was going to happen next. Stingy brat, let me see. What's there to lose? Shi shouted from within the space-time treasure pagoda. Ridiculous, Night Sorrow muttered. Who's being ridiculous? Yang Lei pulled Night Sorrow's ear. Don't. It's Shi. She's unhappy that I sealed the space-time pagoda and prevented her from sensing the outside world. She wants to know what we're doing. With Yang Lei grabbing his ear, Night Sorrow could only tell the truth. This woman wants to see everything. Even we want to see it. If you have time, you and she can perform for us. Yang Lei shouted at Night Sorrow. That's too shameless. Even a saint would do such a thing. Sikong Chuyu also began to mutter. Now that I've sealed the space-time treasure pagoda, there's no problem. Night Sorrow bent down and threw Yang Lei and Sikong Chuyu onto the big bed. Then, he pounced on them. After not being together for a long time, it was inevitable that passion would burn. The 2 girls were also in high spirits. It wasn't until midnight that the 3 of them laid down together to rest. It had been a long time since they were so relaxed. Night Sorrow felt a sense of security in his heart. After resting for a night, Night Sorrow woke up and realized that there were some changes in him. That was that his mind was clear. He also felt that cultivating his spear techniques was very smooth. Did you feel the change? Because there's pressure in your heart and your soul is covered in dust. Yesterday's problem was solved, so I feel a lot more carefree. Wu Lingfei appeared in the courtyard and smiled at Night Sorrow and nodded. See the original A+ Chapter 6e Section U. I do feel refreshed today. It's just that I didn't expect that something in my heart would affect my soul. Night Sorrow lamented. Aunt Faye, actually he underestimated us. Even if he was wrong, it's fine to tell us. Sikong Chuyu, who had laid out the breakfast, came over and said. Wu Lingfei shook her head. Actually, it's not that he underestimated you. It's just that he cared too much about you. He was too worried that you would be angry and unable to accept it. Therefore, he bore the pressure himself. Night Sorrow, if there's anything in the future, just say it. If you don't say it, it's easy for something big to happen. Sikong Chuyu said. Night Sorrow nodded. He realized the seriousness of the problem. Doing something shameful would cause one's soul to be covered in dust. It would cause one's path of cultivation to not be smooth. After everyone ate breakfast together, Night Sorrow took his spear and went to the lake to cultivate. Yang Lei, Aoi, and Sikong Chuyu all admitted their mistakes to Wu Lingfei. They knew that although it wasn't their intention, it did give Night Sorrow a lot of pressure. Wu Lingfei smiled and let everyone talk more. She let Night Sorrow say anything. Night Sorrow went to the lake to cultivate a spatial fissure. Then, he entered the space-time pagoda. Are you planning to suffocate me to death? Aren't you going to let me see the situation outside? At most, I won't look at you and your fiancé. She said. Night Sorrow smiled and released his soul power. Finally, he asked about the conversation yesterday. Your 3 fiancés are really good. They are as beautiful as flowers and have graceful figures. Most importantly, they have a high temperament and a broad mind. She said. She had a good impression of Sikong Chuyu, Yang Lei, and Aoi. The 3 of them didn't make things difficult for her. When everyone is together, you have to be more tolerant. Communicate with them more and lower your attitude. They are still young. You have more life experience than them. Night Sorrow looked at Shi and said. What do you mean? You eat it again and then say it doesn't taste good. Are you saying that I'm old? She looked at Night Sorrow and said. Her eyes were filled with unhappiness. That's not what I meant. Cultivators have a long lifespan. Age doesn't matter. What I meant was that you are more mature than them. You are fine. I respect you. Night Sorrow looked at Shi and said. He felt that women were very sensitive and should be careful with their words. That's good. If you are like this, I will be willing to do whatever position you want me to do in the future. You know what I mean. She said with a smile. All right. You win. I want to recover my cultivation. Night Sorrow nodded at Shi. Night Sorrow was happy. Sikong Chuyu, Yang Lei, and Aoi's problems were solved. Shi would also make some efforts. Things were going in a good direction. Shi's unhappiness was fake. In fact, it was just a joke. After recovering, Night Sorrow came out of the space-time treasure pagoda and saw Sikong Chuyu and the other 2. After thinking for a while, Night Sorrow also transferred Shi out of the space-time treasure pagoda. After transferring Shi out, Night Sorrow immediately used the space-time treasure pagoda and began to cultivate his innate skill. He mainly wanted to avoid the awkward situation. Why are you running? The problem has been solved. Everyone just needs to face it. This attitude is not good. Yang Lei said. He is shy. When he doesn't want to face some things, he chose this method. Maybe the rest will be our interaction. Shi nodded at Yang Lei. Sit down and drink tea. Don't let him see you standing here while we are drinking tea and think that we are making you angry. Yang Lei pointed at the chair and said. Chapter 787. Genius 1 second. Remember love divided by go divided by little? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. You guys chat, I'm going to meditate and cultivate. Love go little say, chew with a flash. Night Sorrow entered the space-time pagoda. Right now, he was too embarrassed to face this situation. This guy is still embarrassed, Yang Lei said after taking a sip of tea. He's good in other aspects. Whether it's battle experience or dealing with things, he's very experienced. It's just that he's a little reserved when it comes to men and women. Qing Ji said. She had personally experienced it because if she didn't do something, if she didn't take the initiative, Yishan would never take the initiative to do something. Yes. When we went to the ice-snow mountain in the Far East ice field, I was injured. He saw what he should see and what he shouldn't see. He didn't take the initiative at all. This should be because Chuyu taught him well, Yang Lei said with a smile as she looked at Sikong Chuyu. That's because he didn't keep an eye on her. He ate 9th senior sister and then 6th senior sister. This one didn't escape, Sikong Chuyu said as he looked at Yin Shi. This wasn't his intention. I was possessed and did some things that I can't accept even now. I apologize for this once again. I wasn't like this in the past, Yin Shi said. Love go little say, Chu, if you can say that, then let's not talk about the past. Night Sorrow respects you, and so will we. You're older, so I'll call you Sister Yin Shi. Yang Lei cupped her hands at Yin Shi. Sikong Chuyu and Qing Ji also stood up. They both agreed with Yang Lei's words. It was rare for a saint to admit her mistake like this. The most important thing was that everyone could coexist peacefully. Yi Shang would only feel awkward if he was in the middle. Don't call me Sister Yin Shi. The Silver Devil clan's surname is Shui. My real name is Shui Shi. The name Yin Shi will vanish into thin air in the future. There will be no more Yin Shi said to Sikong Chuyu and the others. She should be called Shui Shi. Shui Shi was planning to give up everything the Silver Dusk Saint had and start anew. That's a good thing. Tianyu, catch some fish for 9th senior sister. Let's grill fish and drink wine. Yang Lei shouted at Tianyu, who was cultivating on the ground. This wasn't Yang Lei using Night Sorrow's power to do things. Tianyu had a good relationship with the 3 girls. Sikong Chuyu and the 3 girls all treated Tianyu as a younger brother, so they were very casual. I'll be done soon, Tianyu replied, and his body flashed as he went to catch fish in the lake. When the girls finished grilling the fish, Night Sorrow came out of the space-time pagoda. When Night Sorrow was about to cultivate again, he was caught by Yang Lei. Come and eat grilled fish and drink wine. There's something else I want to tell you. Then, Yang Lei told him about Shui Shi's decision. Congratulations, your new life has begun. Here, you are everyone's friend, Shui Shi. Night Sorrow stretched out his hand to Shui Shi very seriously. Kung Fu. Seeing Night Sorrow stretch out his hand, Shui Shi also stretched out her hand very seriously to shake Night Sorrow's hand. Then, Sister Shui Shi doesn't have to hide from anyone in the future because there's only Shui Shi in the city in the sky, Sikong Chuyu said. Night Sorrow shook his head and said, that might not be enough. Senior Xia Lanjun and the others can still recognize him through his aura. It's just that he has changed his hair color. He won't be able to hide from the other saints. That's not a problem. I have a cultivation technique called the aura concealing technique. In the past, I disdained to cultivate it. After cultivating it, my energy and aura will change. Additionally, after cultivating the elemental wind body, my aura and energy have changed somewhat, Shui Shi said. Alright, I know you don't want to see Senior Xia and the others, and I don't want to see you in an awkward situation. It's best if we don't meet. Yi Shan thought for a moment before replying. That's right, Yi Shan said after thinking for a moment. After eating the roasted fish and drinking some wine, Night Sorrow continued to cultivate the spatial crack technique. When he returned, Sikong Chuyu said, don't cultivate today. Have some tea, chat, and rest. Alright, I've been feeling very relaxed recently. Oh right, I haven't sorted out the resources I collected yet. Night Sorrow said. Following that, Night Sorrow took out a bunch of storage rings and the resources he had obtained from the Red Leaf Dynasty. Then, he began to organize them. The Red Leaf Dynasty had a long history, so its resources were naturally abundant. Night Sorrow took more than 2 hours to organize them. There was no need to talk about the spirit stones. Night Sorrow packed 2 storage rings, and he also sorted out the materials for refining pills and artifacts. Night Sorrow directly gave some attribute crystals to everyone, and Night Sorrow was not stingy with Shui Shi. What surprised Night Sorrow was that there were still 2 void Dao stones. Shui Shi's eyes lit up because she needed them. Actually, last time, when we talked about soul clones, your eyes lit up, but at that time, you needed to deal with the 7-star saint, so you couldn't lose your strength, so I didn't give them to you. Night Sorrow took out the bigger one of the void Dao stones and threw it to Xueshi. Don't worry, it's an eventful time now. I won't lose my strength to cultivate soul clones. In the future, if there's nothing else, I'll go cultivate. Xueshi said happily as she held the void Dao stone. Your soul force's foundation is not enough, so don't study this for now. Wait until you enter the venerable realm and your soul force liquefies before cultivating. Night Sorrow looked at Sikong Chuyu and the other two girls and said, if you have extra void Dao stones, go ask your parents if they need them. Aoi reminded Night Sorrow. Alright, I'll go see my parents later. Actually, without the corresponding cultivation method, the effect of cultivating it is not strong. Night Sorrow said. I have a cultivation method. When they want to cultivate, you can just use the void Dao stone. At this time, Xueshi decisively stood in the same line as Sikong Chuyu and the other two. You think you're so great just because you have a cultivation method? My soul clone has reached large success and has 90% of my original body's strength. How much power does your cultivation method have? Night Sorrow looked at Xueshi with disdain. Then I'll also learn your soul clone cultivation method. Hearing Night Sorrow's words, Xueshi was stunned for a moment before she quickly said. No. This involves the inheritance. The cultivation technique I used to cultivate the soul doppelganger was given to me by Auntie Fei. Because of that, Auntie Fei was punished by the backlash of her bloodline. You know what I mean, Yi Shang said apologetically. Understood. Truth be told, my soul doppelganger cultivation technique is also possible. It is the Origin Wind Doppelganger secret technique. Although it contains 70% of the original body's energy after reaching major success, its speed is fast. There is not much difference between it and the original body. However, there is a restriction. Only cultivators with wind or water attributes can practice it. Yang Lei can only practice other soul doppelganger secret techniques, Xueshi said. This matter is still quite far away for us. When the time comes, there might be a suitable cultivation method. Yang Lei said with a smile. Let's not talk about this for now. With enough resources, it's not a problem for you to increase your cultivation. You still have to walk the path of strengthening your attributes. However, you have to pay attention to the problem of a stable foundation. Night Sorrow said to Sikong Chuyu and the other two. He had just given the three of them a lot of attribute crystals. He was afraid that the three of them would neglect the problem of their foundation because they had enough resources. Night Sorrow, when are we going to Hao Tian's side to take a look? We can't miss the opportunity there. Xueshi said. Chapter 788. Xueshi nodded. She didn't know much about Night Sorrow's body cultivation. In her impression, Night Sorrow's body cultivation was already at the peak, but Night Sorrow kept improving at this peak. Then Night Sorrow said goodbye to the girls. He was going to go out and see how Night Moon's revenge war was going. The Golden Dragon King's side is not a problem. What they need is rule. As for the Red Leaf Dynasty, it shouldn't be a big problem because they don't have anyone capable of withstanding the attacks of the Night Moon Dynasty. However, as the young master of the Night Moon Dynasty, you should go and take a look, Xueshi said. After arriving at Golden Moon City, Night Sorrow didn't see Yi Linghuan and Yi Wuyo. After chatting with Night God Thunder for a while, Night Sorrow knew that Night Moon's upper echelons were at Red Leaf Imperial City. Night Sorrow then teleported to Red Leaf Imperial City. At this time, Red Leaf Imperial City had been renamed Red Moon City. In the City Lord's mansion, Night Sorrow saw Yi Linghuan and a few emperors. Yi Wuyo and his wife were also there. You ran away after killing the enemy's main combatants. Now you look like you're inspecting. Night God Kwang looked at Night Sorrow and said. #K to the power of 70, V, God Kwang Emperor, don't make fun of me. I just want to meet with my parents. Night Sorrow said with a smile. Filial piety. Not bad. Night God Kwang nodded. When I'm not busy, I'll go find you. In these two wars, Night Moon collected a lot of materials to refine some pills. I'm only an alchemy master. The quality of the pills I refine is not as good as an alchemy master like you. Night God Moon said. Can't an honorable become an alchemy master? Why are you still an alchemy master? Night Sorrow was a little puzzled. He didn't understand Night God Moon's situation. You really don't know much about general knowledge. There are many venerables on the continent, but how many alchemy grandmasters are there? An alchemy grandmaster must be at least an alchemy grandmaster, but an alchemy grandmaster is not necessarily an alchemy grandmaster. This is related to the inheritance of alchemy, Night Sorrow said as she looked at Night Sorrow. This is Night Sorrow. You don't understand. Night Sorrow blushed with shame. He had never thought about this. Because he had Feng Chen's handwritten alchemy manual, he had never considered the issue of alchemy inheritances. After chatting for a while, Yi Wuyo and Yu Qing took Night Sorrow to their temporary residence. I thought that after Night Moon returned, there would be a bloody battle, but after you took the lead, all difficulties were resolved. If I had known earlier, I would have brought your sister out of the Sea of Night Moon so that you and your sister could meet earlier, Yi Wuyo said with a smile. There's no rush. As long as my family is safe, we can meet whenever we want, Night Sorrow said with a smile. Yu Qing also nodded. She agreed with Night Sorrow's words. After that, Night Sorrow took out the crystals and spirit stones he obtained from the Red Leaf Palace and the Red Leaf Dynasty's upper echelon storage rings and gave some to Yi Wuyo and Yu Qing. Father, your main cultivation path is the space element. I don't know about the secondary element, so I gave the holy weapon to Mother last time, Night Sorrow said to Yi Wuyo. There's no difference between giving it to your mother and giving it to me. Besides, I mainly cultivate the space element. As for the light element, it's just a side element. It has nothing to do with the earth element, Yi Wuyo said with a smile. Night Sorrow was stunned. This was the first time he had seen a cultivator with the light element. Don't be surprised. If it weren't for the light element and my strong recovery ability, I wouldn't have survived 20 years ago. Yi Wuyo looked at Night Sorrow and said something that Night Sorrow didn't know. Night Sorrow nodded. He had never seen a light crystal before. He also gave Yi Wuyo a space crystal. Night Sorrow then asked Yi Wuyo and Yu Qing who wanted to cultivate a soul doppelganger. Yi Wuyo shook his head. He didn't want to cultivate this because it was important for him to cultivate the spatial split. Also, he needed to break through to the Saint Realm. During this time, he couldn't damage his soul. However, Yu Qing was interested. She was still far from the peak of the Venerable Realm. She could cultivate a soul doppelganger. Night Sorrow then gave the Phantom Dao Stone to Yu Qing. As for cultivation methods, Yu Qing had her own. There was also a soul doppelganger secret method in the inheritance of Beiyu City. Night Sorrow then asked his father if Yi Linghuan wanted to cultivate a soul doppelganger. Night Sorrow, it's good that you have such intentions. However, there are some things that you don't have to worry about. The harvest from this revenge battle is huge. Night Moon will also make up for some rare resources. In addition, your grandfather probably won't cultivate a soul doppelganger because he's the same as me. He wants to maximize the power of the spatial split and spatial slash. He won't easily destroy the integrity of his soul, Yi Wuyo said. After hearing Yi Wuyo's words, Night Sorrow understood that not everyone would choose to cultivate a soul doppelganger. It would be very harmful to the soul. Later, Night Sorrow learned some news from Yi Wuyo. The elders of Taiching City had decided to elect a new city lord and deputy city lord. Yi Linghuan was very likely to be the next city lord because no one in Taiching City could compete with him. Decades ago, Yi Linghuan was known as the Invincible King. Now, he was a saint. No one could compare to him in terms of strength and reputation. Yun Tianlong, the monarch of the Yun dynasty, was also a little inferior. There was still some difference between an invincible venerable and a saint. Father, then Taiching City will belong to our Night Moon dynasty. No one will be able to compete with us, Night Sorrow said happily. If Yi Linghuan could become the city lord of Taiching City, Night Moon Dynasty would reach the peak in terms of strength and righteousness. Yes, if your grandfather can become the city lord, Night Moon will reach the peak again. Yi Wuyo nodded. After chatting with Yi Wuyo and Yu Qing for a while, Night Sorrow left Maple City and teleported to Taiching City. After exiting Taiching City's teleportation array, Night Sorrow was surprised to see Star Tiger and Sing Lo. Nothing much. Want to have a drink? Star Tiger greeted Night Sorrow. Sure. Night Sorrow nodded. He admired Star Tiger's magnanimity. Although Seven Star Dynasty had suffered a loss, he didn't look at him as if he was an enemy. After entering the restaurant and ordering, Night Sorrow took out 2 jars of wine. There's not much good wine left, but we can drink it. That means I'm in luck, Star Tiger said with a smile. You brought wine into the restaurant. Can't you afford to drink the restaurant's wine or something? You're Night Moon's young master, a real prince, right? Sing Lo looked at Night Sorrow with disdain. This is good wine. You can't buy it with money. Besides, you don't have to look at me like I'm about to be cut to pieces, right? Actually, I made the decision to reconcile with Seven Star Dynasty, you know? I'm also under pressure, Night Sorrow said to Sing Lo, who had been looking at him coldly. Thank you, Star Tiger. I understand. That's just how my aunt is. Don't mind her. If I really hate you, I'll just take out my weapon, Star Tiger said with a smile. I don't hate you, but I don't really hate you. I'm just angry at you, okay? Sing Lo said as he picked up the wine jar beside Night Sorrow, opened it, and began to pour wine. Night Sorrow was speechless. He used the wine he brought as an excuse, and now he wanted to drink his wine. Chapter 789. After drinking 2 jars of wine, Star Tiger told me the main reason for going to Night Moon, Night Sorrow said. Anyway, I'm begging you for this. You can do as you see fit, Star Tiger said as he raised his wine bowl to Night Sorrow. If there's really a marriage alliance, I'll tell my grandfather and arrange for some outstanding and domineering members of Night Moon, Night Sorrow said to Star Tiger. Outstanding is a must. What about domineering? Star Tiger asked Night Sorrow. If you're not domineering, you'll be bullied to death, Night Sorrow glanced at Sing Lo. Star Tiger coughed twice to hide his awkwardness. Night Sorrow's words were like killing someone without spilling blood. Killing people is the least important thing. What you said just now was really good, Sing Lo was so angry that his face turned white. After drinking, Night Sorrow brought Star Tiger and Star Tiger to Night Moon City. Then, he found the current person in charge of Night Moon City, Yilingxia, and arranged for Star Tiger and Sing Lo to stay. Then, he returned to the city in the sky. Night Moon Dynasty recovered really quickly. In the future, Night Moon will be the only dynasty in Taiching region, followed by Yun Dynasty. The future of Seven Star Dynasty is not optimistic, Sing Lo said with a sigh. Night Moon Dynasty and Yun Dynasty have a deep relationship. They didn't participate in Night Moon's revenge this time, but they have been helping Night Moon Dynasty defend their borders. This is a big favor and Night Moon will value it. Besides, the Qingming Dynasty's king has been killed. It's only a matter of time before Night Moon takes them down, Star Tiger said. The undefeated King Yi Linghuan will be the city lord of Taiching City. This is a foregone conclusion. Whether or not our Seven-Star Dynasty can survive will depend on this peace talk, Sing Lo said as he looked at the streets of Night Moon City outside the window. Auntie, you don't have to be against the marriage alliance. Night Moon's core princes and grandsons are all very outstanding, and they have always been monogamous. Of course, that bastard Night Sorrow is an exception, Star Tiger said. In fact, Star Tiger was more optimistic about Night Sorrow, but when he found out that Night Sorrow and Sing Lo were like fire and water, he knew that there was no chance. Therefore, he could only settle for the next best thing, which was to let Night Sorrow recommend him. Sing Lo thought for a moment and said, Night Sorrow is really something. The one who defeated the old ancestor was a saintess, and when he attacked the Red Leaves dynasty, he had 2 saintesses by his side. What kind of situation is this? It's really hard to understand. The situation of Night Moon could be said to have been laid out by him. His opinion has a great influence on the higher-ups of Night Moon. However, seeing his attitude towards you, I think he will put in a good word for the 7-star dynasty. Star Tiger nodded. He should. Let's stay here for a while. When the situation in Night Moon stabilizes, we will inform the family to come over. Star Tiger and Sing Lo then stayed in Night Moon City. They also went to the Night Moon Monument to offer incense. After staying for a few days, Star Tiger and Sing Lo planned to go to Sky City to meet Night Sorrow. However, they encountered a problem. The Night Moon City's teleportation array allowed you to teleport anywhere except the city in the sky. Why can't we teleport to Sky City? Sing Lo asked. When Night Sorrow brought Sing Lo and Star Tiger to Sky City, he explained that it was where he lived. Other than the Night Moon Core token, no one else is allowed to teleport there. This is the order of King Ling Huan and King Ling Xia. Yi Lingyuan, who was guarding the teleportation array, said. The Night Moon sovereigns who were supposed to go to the islands in the Realms Sea had all returned. Yi Lingyuan was now in charge of guarding the teleportation array. Sing Lo and Star Tiger looked at each other, then left the teleportation array. Did you see that? Without the Night Moon Core token, you can't even go to where he lives. It's clear that his status in Night Moon is very high, Star Tiger said. That guy sure is arrogant. Sing Lo understood. She and Star Tiger were also core members of the 7-star dynasty, but they were on a completely different level compared to Night Sorrow, who was the core of Night Moon. At this moment, Yi Linghuan and Yun Tianlong were talking in the palace of Red Moon City. I'm very sorry about what happened back then. This king was in seclusion and couldn't come to your aid in time. Yun Tianlong cupped his hands toward Yi Linghuan. You're too polite, Monarch Yun. Night Moon will always remember the Yun dynasty's help. It's good that you're here this time. Otherwise, I would have gone to the Yun dynasty as well. Yi Linghuan said. What's the matter? Feel free to speak, Yun Tianlong said. He knew that Yi Linghuan was in Red Leaf Imperial City, so he came to visit. The Night Moon dynasty took down the Golden Dragon King dynasty and the Red Leaf dynasty. As for the 7-star dynasty, they might be on the verge of reconciliation. I've already killed the Qingming dynasty, so the Yun dynasty can take the remaining territory, Yi Linghuan said. Night Sorrow asked in a low voice. You silly boy, what don't you know? The direct descendants all wear the king's battle armor or king's battle robes in official occasions. Look at your parents. Yi Xinhua pointed at Yi Wuyo and Yu Qing. Night Moon's members were divided into men and women. When necessary, the men would wear the king's battle armor and the women would wear the king's battle robes. At this moment, Yi Wuyo and Yu Qing were wearing the king's battle armor and king's battle robes respectively. Yi Wuyo and Yu Qing smiled and nodded towards Night Sorrow. After a while, the 7-star saint led the 7-star dynasty's higher-ups into the main hall. After the two sides greeted each other, the 7-star saint led the people to their seats. Then, they entered the main topic. Night Moon's former city had already been constructed by the 7-star dynasty. They were just waiting for the Night Moon dynasty to take it over. Another foreign lord, Star Batian, gave a few storage rings. Inside are all the resources of our 7-star dynasty for the past 5 years. Please accept them. Yi Linghuan gestured for Yi Xinhua to take the storage rings. Then, he looked at the 7-star dynasty's people. Then let's pay our respects to the heroes of our Yi clan who died in battle. Then, the group of people left the main hall and paid their respects to Night Moon's ancestors who died in battle. After returning to the main hall and sitting down, the 7-star saint proposed an alliance. Original $. Yi Linghuan nodded and let the 7-star saint finish speaking. The 7-star dynasty promised not to offend the Night Moon dynasty and was willing to marry the 7-star dynasty's most outstanding princess to Night Moon. Then, Sing Lo stood up and bowed to Night Moon's ancestors. Night Sorrow, what do you think? Yi Linghuan looked at Night Sorrow. War itself is painful. This bitter result can be said to be the wrong decision made by the ancestors. This should not be borne by the descendants and should not be sacrificed by the descendants. Children are in the hearts of their parents. As an elder, no one wants to see the younger generation unhappy. Night Sorrow stood up and said. Night Sorrow's view is the same as mine. The younger generation needs to be protected and not sacrificed. Of course, if there is someone who is in love with you, then I will support you. Yi Linghuan said. Thank you Linghuan Saint for your magnanimity. Thank you young Master Yi for your magnanimity. Star Batian bowed to Yi Linghuan and cupped his hands to Night Sorrow. He was also very pained to have Xing Lo marry him. Then, as the party that initiated the alliance and reconciliation, the Seven-Star Dynasty was willing to send troops to help Night Moon Dynasty take down the Qing Ming Dynasty. Then, Yi Linghuan mentioned the cooperation with the Yun Dynasty. Seeing the worried faces of the Seven-Star Dynasty's people, Yi Linghuan smiled and said, the Yun Tianlong Emperor is not a war maniac. He will not attack your Seven-Star Dynasty. In the future, the most important thing is for the Tai Qing region to unite against the outside world. Star Batian understands. Our Seven-Star Dynasty also supports Linghuan Saint as the city lord of Tai Qing City. This way, the Tai Qing region can unite and become the #1 region of the 9 regions again. Star Batian cupped his hands and said. Then, Yi Linghuan asked the Seven-Star Dynasty's people to stay as guests. Then, they had some ordinary conversations. Night Sorrow slipped out of Night Moon's hall. Everyone was an elder, so he felt very pressured. Night Sorrow, thank you. Star Tiger followed him out and cupped his hands to Night Sorrow. I also want to thank you. I apologize for my bad attitude towards you in the past. Xing Lo, who came out with Star Tiger, bowed to Night Sorrow. It's nothing. I don't know if you guys participated in the 20-year war, but you definitely weren't the decision makers. So, you shouldn't have to bear the consequences. Now that things have come to an end, you guys can stay here and play for a while. Night Sorrow said. I say, what kind of place are you staying at? We wanted to go there a while ago, but this place didn't allow us to teleport. Xing Lo looked at Night Sorrow and asked. It's a newly built town. Currently, that's where the people around me are staying. They probably don't want to disturb me because they don't want to teleport. Night Sorrow said. The god-slaying squad that you lead is very powerful. Bring me to meet them when you have time. After all, there are many people from Tianji Tower in that place. We'll definitely have a chance to work together in the future. Star Tiger said to Night Sorrow. Okay, I'll bring you there at 1:00 in the evening. Night Sorrow said to Star Tiger. Night Sorrow, I've apologized to you, right? If he can go, why can't I go? Let me tell you that I'm the protector of Tianji Tower. I want to meet the members of Tianji Tower. Can you still refuse? Xing Lo said to Night Sorrow. Just because you're the protector of Tianji Tower, I have to agree? What a joke. Why don't you ask your boss if I can refuse? Night Sorrow laughed. No one in Tianji Tower had ever ordered him around. But with you here, I reckon that will change, Yu Qing said with a smile. Yi Wuyo did not say anything. If he did, Yu Qing would glare at him again. The family chatted for a long time before returning to rest. This time, Night Sorrow went to Aoi's room. Aoi chatted with Night Sorrow for a while before the two of them went to rest. However, after a short while, Aoi could no longer endure. After all, she had yet to cultivate her body to the pinnacle. Her body was not strong enough to endure Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow, why don't you go look for big sister Xueshi? Aoi said to Night Sorrow. Then I'll call her out, Night Sorrow said as he brought Xueshi out of the space-time pagoda. You bastard. Seeing Xueshi appear, Aoi hurriedly pulled the blanket over her body. Night Sorrow, what's the meaning of this? Did you call me out to put out the fire? Xueshi looked at the scene. How could she not see what was going on? Don't tell me you don't understand. Night Sorrow directly pulled Xueshi onto his bed. After spending some time with Aoi and comforting Aoi, Night Sorrow took off Xueshi's skirt and began fighting. At this time, Aoi discovered just how accommodating Night Sorrow was to her. After all, their battle was very intense. Aoi, go to sleep. Don't just watch. Noticing that Qing Ji had been watching her fight with Yi Shang, even Xueshi couldn't stand it and felt a bit embarrassed. Chapter 792. Seeing that Qing Ji's face was as red as water, how could Xueshi not know what was going on? She directly pulled Yi Shang off her body and pushed him onto Qing Ji. As long as Aoi couldn't take it anymore, Xueshi would come to put out the fire. Night Sorrow didn't stop fighting until midnight. He gave his yang energy to Aoi. Aoi cultivated the harmony technique, but she didn't succeed in getting Night Sorrow's yang energy. Then, the three of them rested together. This kind of communication laid the most solid foundation for getting along well. When everyone got up and washed up, Yang Lei and Sikong Chuyu were shocked when they saw the situation. 13, you're good. You can even do this. You're awesome. Yang Lei gave Night Sorrow a thumbs up. Haha. Luckily, let's think about what gift to give my sister. Night Sorrow wiped his face and said. Hee, I have a set of soft armor. It's not bad. You guys can think about it yourselves. Xueshi said with a smile. That's too shameless. Night Sorrow was speechless. I have one too. I have a face-preserving pill. It should be fine. Yang Lei said. Yes, I also have a protective bracelet from Tianji Tower. It can block attacks from beginner supremacies. It's suitable. Sikong Chuyu said. 13th junior brother, what should I do? Aoi was a little anxious. She didn't have any collection. Night Sorrow lowered his head and pondered. He didn't prepare anything either. After thinking for a while, Night Sorrow took out his spatial essence iron. He cut it with his reincarnation spear and kept a portion for himself. The rest was given to Aoi. This is spatial essence iron. It can be used to forge spatial attribute weapons. It's more suitable for Nian Shao. Aoi nodded and accepted it. She didn't need to be polite with Night Sorrow now. Yi Shang took a deep breath. He was worried now. He didn't know what he should give. After pondering for a while, Night Sorrow took out the spiritual jade stone pillar and chopped it into 3 pieces. He then held the reincarnation spear and shook his wrist, carving the lotus throne. This gift is the most attentive. Sikong Chuyu opened her mouth and said. As for the other 2, they were prepared by Night Sorrow for his parents. Night Sorrow prepared a gift. When it was time for breakfast, Yi Wuyo and his wife brought Yi Nianxiao over. Seeing Xueshi, Yi Wuyo, and Yu Qing were both stunned for a moment, because they couldn't see through Xueshi's depth. It was impossible to say that she didn't have any cultivation, because Xueshi's body clearly contained a very strong energy. Father, mother, this is Xueshi, our friend. Night Sorrow introduced Xueshi to everyone. Starting from Aoi, everyone took out a greeting gift for Yi Nianxiao. Night Sorrow, this isn't appropriate. Yi Wuyo looked at Night Sorrow. It's not inappropriate. We only have one little sister, Night Sorrow said. Big brother, where's your gift? I care about Big brother's greeting gift the most. Yi Nianxiao pulled Night Sorrow's arm and asked. Big brother really doesn't know what you need, so I didn't prepare anything. I can only give you a small gift. In the future, if you need anything, even if it's the stars in the sky, Big brother will help you pluck them, Night Sorrow said as he stroked Yi Nianxiao's hair. Actually, Big brother's words are the best gift. Yi Nianxiao looked at Night Sorrow with a smile. There's still a small gift. Night Sorrow took out the spiritual jade lotus throne he had prepared. Ah! Crystal lotus throne. I really like it. Yin Yanxiao said as she looked at the spiritual jade lotus throne. The spiritual jade lotus throne contained rich life energy. It was as beautiful as a crystal. It's good that you like it. In the future, you can meditate on it. It'll be good for your body, said Night Sorrow with a smile. I really like it. This is a newly carved one. Did Big Brother carve it? Yin Yanxiao looked at Night Sorrow with a smile. I just finished it a while ago. Look, that's just a pile of rubble. Night Sorrow pointed at the rubble of the spiritual jade lotus throne. Following that, Night Sorrow gave each of his parents a spiritual jade lotus throne. I've made you spend money again. Yu Qing smiled. Night Sorrow smiled and shook his head. He likes spending money like this. In the past, even if he had good things, he wouldn't be able to give them to his parents. That was truly regretful. After eating breakfast, they went to the lakeside. While the group of women drank tea and chatted, Night Sorrow and Yiwuyo took a walk by the lakeside. Yiwuyo told Night Sorrow that once the night moon stabilized, he would return to his family's land in the night moon sea and continue comprehending the power of laws. Now that he was a half-step sage, he wanted to break through to the sage realm. Once the night moon had 2 sages, it would become a true colossus. At the same time, he asked if Night Sorrow would return. Night Sorrow shook his head. He said that he would wait around Clear Sky City. When the energy storm weakened, he would enter Clear Sky City ahead of time. This is the era of great competition. If there's an opportunity, you have to fight for it. This is your father's communication crystal. If you can enter, crush the crystal and your father will rush over, said Yiwuyo. Square root comma. And only YKO genuine M, B, he even GH, plus is the stolen M version. Then Yiwuyo asked about Shuexi's situation. Night Sorrow hesitated for a moment. Father, just treat her as my friend. There are some things that are inconvenient to say. If you say it, it will hurt her face. Father, you know that she is very strong and won't hurt us. You've been out there for a long time and have a lot of experience, so I believe that you can handle some things well. Also, you have to remember that you're no longer a child without a family. If anyone bullies you, then we can fight back, even if we have to die in battle. Yiwuyo said. During this period of time, he learned a lot. He also knew that Night Sorrow had been despised because of his family background. This was the saddest thing in his heart because he didn't stand behind his son when he needed him the most. Thank you, Father. Night Sorrow bowed to Yiwuyo. Father cultivates the way of a gentleman, but I also have the anger of a gentleman. In addition, the 2 people who died protecting you back then were my 2 guards. When you have time, bring me and your mother to pay our respects. They were good people, said Yiwuyo. Who were the ones who tried to kill us back then? Even if the war is over, I will take revenge, said Night Sorrow. It's already over. After conquering the Red Leaf Dynasty, your grandfather and I went to the Green Ming Dynasty. Your grandfather killed the king of the Green Ming Dynasty, so I killed the enemies back then. The enemies who tried to kill your mother and father are no longer alive in this world, said Yiwuyo. This can be considered as an explanation for the 2 senior guards. Night Sorrow nodded. The father and son strolled around the lake for a while, then returned to the wooden boat. Qing, we have to pay our respects to the 2 brothers from the side family. Without them, Night Sorrow wouldn't have come back to us, Yiwuyo said to Yu Qing. Of course, we should also thank the Medicine Valley. It was the Medicine Valley that nurtured Night Sorrow so well, said Yu Qing. Chapter 793. Everyone agreed with this suggestion. Night Sorrow called out to Father Gu, and the group left the city in the sky. After a few teleportations, they arrived at Dongxian City. This is the Dongxian Domain. Domain Lord Wu has really governed it well. It's quiet and peaceful. It's a big city without gunpowder, Yu Qing said as she looked at the Dongxian Domain. After taking a look at Dongxian City, the group continued to teleport. Yi Wuyo wanted to see the place where Night Sorrow had lived since he was young. After 2 teleportations, the group arrived at Bamboo Garden City and then Bamboo Garden Town. In Father Gu's courtyard, Uncle Nyo was trimming the deformed bamboos. Night Sorrow, Father Gu, you're back. Take care of the guests first. I'll come and drink with you guys later. Uncle Nyo ignored Night Sorrow's urging and left the courtyard. Yu Qing entered the courtyard and saw the wooden horse that had been baptized by the flames of war. This is my toy when I was young. Last time, Jiyu's family came to burn Bamboo Garden Village and destroyed it. Father Gu refused to throw it away because this is also my home. He was afraid that I would forget what home looked like if I stayed outside for too long, Night Sorrow said. Reaching out to touch the wooden horse, Yu Qing cried again. She knew that Father Gu and Night Sorrow had lived a tough life, but Father Gu was sincerely good to her child. Yu Qing bowed to Father Gu again before she calmed down. Back then, this was just a small village. It took many days to get to the nearest town, so life was tough. Night Sorrow didn't have a good childhood, Father Gu said apologetically. Brother, don't say that. We're sincerely grateful to you. If it weren't for you, we might not have seen our child again. Yi Wuyo also cupped his hands at Father Gu. Then, Father Gu led everyone to the graves of the 2 Yi guards. There were fruits and incense in front of the graves. The incense hadn't been extinguished. People often offer incense here, Yi Wuyo asked after everyone offered incense. This place is no longer as dilapidated and difficult as it was a few years ago. In the past few years, everyone in Bamboo Garden Village made a living in the mouths of beasts. People often died in the mouths of beasts and were often attacked by demonic beasts. Night Sorrow left this place because he wanted to join the Medicine Valley and receive the protection of this place. Night Sorrow did it. This village turned into a small town, and then from a small town to a city. Everyone is grateful to Night Sorrow, so everyone will consciously come to pay their respects to the 2 heroes of the Night Sorrow, explained Papa Gu. Brother, you risked your lives to protect my son. Yi Wuyo will remember this. You are the glory of Night Moon. Yi Wuyo bowed again. Then, he put the 2 tombstones together and engraved the name of his guard. From now on, it was no longer a nameless tombstone. Because the bamboo building was small, everyone stayed in the inn in town. The inn was owned by the woman Night Sorrow had saved from the bandits. When she saw Night Sorrow, she bowed and addressed him as young master. Yi Sorrow, other people are grateful to you. This is good karma. If the power of good karma is small, it might not be obvious. But when there is great karma, the light of good karma will be added to your body, making your future even brighter, Yi Wuyo said. Night Sorrow didn't understand because he had never heard of it. Then, Yi Wuyo explained the concept of the power of virtue to him. Merit and karmic luck complemented each other. The more merit one had, the better their karmic luck would be. Furthermore, Yi Wuyo was certain that Night Sorrow already had karmic luck on his body. Cultivators walk different paths. Some cultivate the Tao of inaction, while others cultivate the Tao of hegemony. Father believes in the Tao of nobility, which is to cultivate one's character and virtue. Naturally, I have comprehended it. I can't sense your karmic luck elsewhere, but I can in the Eastern Xian region. It should be said that you have done a great deed for the Eastern Xian region, said Yi Wuyo. Could it be because I entered that alternate space several times to fight for the Eastern Xian region and the other 9 regions? Night Sorrow pondered for a moment. The karmic luck of the 9 regions is very difficult to obtain because the laws of the 9 regions are incomplete. Naturally, it can't form karmic luck. Based on your current situation, the Eastern Xian region has an essence core. That's why it can produce karmic luck, explained Yi Wuyo to Night Sorrow. V cool C forever, free for a long time XVH little x, Speako. Hearing Yi Wuyo's explanation, Night Sorrow understood a bit. The Eastern Xian region did indeed have its own independent law. While they were talking, Yang Lei flashed out and stood in front of a young man. Her long sword was pointed at the young man's throat. Chen Chen, you really deserve to die. You actually betrayed Father Gu and Night Sorrow. Today, I'll have you die, said Yang Lei furiously. Ninth senior sister, forget it. Night Sorrow walked out of the inn and arrived in front of Yang Lei. He looked at Chen Chen, who seemed to have experienced a lot. Night Sorrow, I don't appreciate your kindness. Chen Chen looked at Night Sorrow and said. I don't need your kindness. I don't need you to be grateful. You should have had a different path and a different life. You chose this path yourself. I'm sparing your life for no other reason than the fact that you once called Father Gu father, and foster father, and elder brother. In the future, you'll have a good ending if you behave yourself. If you have any devious thoughts, you know what will happen. Yi Shang pulled Yang Lei back into the inn. After Yi Wuyo and Yu Qing asked, Night Sorrow told them some of the disputes between him and Chen Chen. Night Sorrow also said that Chen Chen was watched by the disciples of the Medicine Valley, so there was no possibility of him causing trouble. In addition, there were people in Tianji Tower who were watching him. Besides, he was a person with a broken dantian, so no one would take advantage of him. After staying in Juyuan City for 2 days, Night Sorrow and the others arrived at the Medicine Valley. The Medicine Valley was already prepared. When Night Sorrow arrived in Juyuan City, they sent a message to the Medicine Valley. The Medicine Valley attached great importance to this matter because Yi Wuyo and Yu Qing were the prince and consort of Night Moon. They were currently important figures in the Taiqing domain. In addition, Night Sorrow's return to the Medicine Valley was also a major event. In front of Danding Square, the 3 venerables of the Medicine Valley welcomed them together with the Peak Master of the Medicine Valley. After the 2 sides greeted each other politely, they entered the main hall. Yi Wuyo is very grateful to Valley Master Lu for educating Night Sorrow. After entering the main hall, Yi Wuyo and Yu Qing cupped their hands and thanked Yu Yangyu. You two are too polite. Night Sorrow is the pride of the Medicine Valley. Most of the Medicine Valley's current situation and status were earned by Night Sorrow. Yu Yangyu cupped his hands and returned the salute. Then Yi Wuyo made a promise that as long as the Medicine Valley needed it, the Night Moon dynasty would definitely help. Wuyo City would also support them to the end. Yi Wuyo was the successor of Night Moon. He could represent the Night Moon dynasty. In addition, he was the governor of Wuyo City and had his own forces. After Yu Yangyu invited Night Moon and the others to a banquet, Night Sorrow took his parents to the bamboo forest peak of Taixian Peak to rest. After making arrangements for his parents, Night Sorrow went to Danding Cliff alone. He wanted to communicate with the 8-Dragon Cauldron. At this time, the higher-ups of the Medicine Valley were still chatting in the Danding main hall. Middle-level venerables. Night Sorrow is now the most powerful person in the Medicine Valley. It's a pity that he can't inherit the position of the Valley Master. The Great Elder sighed. Chapter 794. The Grand Elder nodded. The Medicine Valley was now a first-rate force in the eastern Xian region. It could be said that no other sect could compete or even dare to compete with them. This was because the Medicine Valley had produced Yi Shang, who had a high status in the Celestial Terminus Tower and the eastern Xian Royal City. If any force dared to touch the Medicine Valley, they would not be able to pass the tests of Dongxian Royal City and Tianji Tower. I remember the disciple recruitment ceremony that year very clearly. The threshold was set at the 4th level of Qi refinement. Night Sorrow was at the 3rd level of Qi refinement back then. If the Valley Master and I hadn't given him a chance, the Medicine Valley wouldn't be where it is today, Yan Beiji said with a sigh. Don't take credit for it. It was Night Sorrow who worked hard, Yi Xiling said as she glanced at Yan Beiji. At that time, I saw the unwillingness in his eyes, so I planned to give him a chance. There is an old saying that giving others a chance is giving yourself a chance. Night Sorrow seized the opportunity, and so did the Medicine Valley, Yu Yangyu said. Prince Wuyo's cultivation is even more unfathomable, Duan Lei said. He is a half-saint who has mastered the power of space. Of course, he is strong. Night Sorrow's battle record is also very terrifying. Yi Xiling, who often went out, was very well informed about some news. Then, she said some of what she knew. Night sorrow can kill intermediate saints, but we are still here asking questions. It's really embarrassing. We have to work harder, Duan Lei said. Yi Shang greeted Elder Su when he arrived at Pill Tripod Cliff. Then, he stepped onto the cliff wall and ascended. This made the other disciples of the Medicine Valley very surprised. At the same time, they also knew who this person was. In the Medicine Valley, there was only one person who could step on Danding Cliff like this, and that was Night Sorrow, the deputy head of the Medicine Valley. He was the sign of the Medicine Valley and also the glory of the Medicine Valley. Arriving at the 8-Dragon Cauldron, Night Sorrow took out a jar of wine and sat down cross-legged. The 8-Dragon Cauldron circled and landed in front of Night Sorrow. However, there was another shadow spinning in the air, which was its secondary body. You're still holding on. You're not willing to fly up. You're a mid-level venerable. You're improving very quickly. The 8-Dragon Cauldron's voice rang out in front of Night Sorrow. This time, I came to Medicine Valley with my family to have a look. I also came to see you. My soul doppelganger is a little slow in nurturing. It still needs some time. Once my soul doppelganger is fully nurtured, I will come and take you away, said Night Sorrow. Soul doppelganger is a little weak. Fortunately, defense is my strength, said the 8-Dragon Cauldron. It shouldn't be weak. I'm cultivating a special soul doppelganger. When it's fully nurtured, it will have 90% of the strength of the original body, said Night Sorrow. That's great. In addition, I'll give you some medicine spirit energy. Try to nurture your soul doppelganger with it. In the future, your soul doppelganger will have a super strong recovery ability. After saying that, the 8-Dragon Cauldron released another ray of medicine spirit energy. After chatting with the 8-Dragon Cauldron for a while, Night Sorrow left Pill Cauldron Cliff and returned to Bamboo Forest Peak. Don't tell me you went to chat with the 8-Dragon Cauldron, asked Aoi as she looked at Night Sorrow with a smile. Sixth senior sister, you're right. Since I'm back, should visit it and communicate with it more, said Night Sorrow with a smile. Permanent IE free TN fee to CO small b, what's the 8-Dragon Cauldron? Asked Yu Qing in confusion. Then Night Sorrow told his parents and Shueshi about the 8-Dragon Cauldron. Middle grade holy treasure. Son, you're really good. You have 2 high-grade spiritual spears behind you, and you have the holy treasure spacetime pagoda in your body. There are still holy treasures waiting for you to use. Others don't even dare to think about it, said Yu Qing happily. As a mother, she wanted her child to be successful. Many people attended the banquet. The higher-ups of Medicine Valley and the disciples of Taishan Peak were all present. After the guests and the host enjoyed themselves, Night Sorrow sent his parents to rest and chatted with Yu Yang Yu for a while. Master's ability is limited. I can't help you much. However, if you have any questions, you can come back to me at any time. Master, I came back this time with some resources for you. You have the fire attribute. These are fire attribute crystals and fire attribute source stones. Night Sorrow took out 10 fire attribute crystals and the source stone that he had lent to Guo and Latrin Swan. This is too precious. Seeing the fire attribute source stones and fire attribute crystals that Night Sorrow took out, Yu Yang Yu said with some surprise. It's nothing. Master, you can keep them. These are wind attribute and thunder attribute crystals. You can give them to the First Elder and Elder Hua. Because my 2 senior sisters also need these 2 things, I can only take out a few of them, Night Sorrow said with a smile. It's good to have them. Who would complain about having too little? Yu Yang Yu said with a smile. Yu Yang Yu was happy that Night Sorrow missed his 2 senior sisters. After chatting for a while, Night Sorrow returned to the Bamboo Forest Peak to rest. After staying in the Medicine Valley for 2 days, Yi Wuyo and Yu Qing were about to leave. Night Moon still had a lot of things to do. After thinking for a while, Night Sorrow let Sikong Chuyu, Yi Wuyo, and Yu Qing go back first. He still had other things to do. Mainly, He wanted to go to the Supreme Creek space with Xuexi and see if the storm in the area where Haotian City was located had weakened. Yi Wuyo did not ask too much. He knew that his son was now capable of shouldering some things, so there was no need to interfere too much. Sikong Chuyu, Yang Lei, and Aoi were also relieved. They knew that Xuexi was strong. The 7-star saint and a 5-star saint had been eliminated. The death of Thousand Leaves Saint was also directly related to Xuexi. Under Xuexi's protection, anyone who wanted to touch Night Sorrow was asking for trouble. After sending Yi Wuyo and the others off, Night Sorrow and Xuexi went to the Supreme Creek entrance behind the Medicine Valley. Night Sorrow, thank you. I feel very relaxed now, more relaxed than ever. I don't feel any pressure at all, Xuexi looked at Night Sorrow and said. Weren't you relaxed when we weren't together? Night Sorrow turned to look at Xuexi, who had become much gentler and more elegant. No, back then, it was very tiring to think about how to suppress others and scheme against each other. After being cheated by you, I was always worried about losing face and dignity. But now, I don't have any of these worries. Palace Master Wu Kei and your mother are very respectful to me. Sikong Chuyu, Yang Lei, and Qing Ji are also very broad-minded people. Not only did they not look down on me, they also sincerely accepted me. Xuexi said. Actually, this is the situation I want to see the most. I took advantage of you. If you don't live a good life, I will feel bad. If you live a good life, there will be no conflict between us, so I can ignore the control of the soul power, Night Sorrow said. If you want, then torture me. Maybe I will tell the young concubine about us, Xuexi looked at Night Sorrow and said. You're good. Let's go, Night Sorrow said with a smile. He knew that Xuexi was joking. If Yuqing knew that Xuexi had once tried to squeeze her son dry of his essence blood, she would turn hostile even if she was not a match for her. Chapter 795. With his previous experience, Night Sorrow easily led Xuexi into the Supreme River space. Last time, they had to fight because many nether beasts had gathered at the entrance of the space channel. This time, however, there was no need for that. There were only 1 or 2 nether beasts at the entrance, and Xuexi easily dealt with them. Then, Night Sorrow led Xuexi to the teleportation array. After passing through the illusion array, the two of them stood on the teleportation array and started the teleportation. Soon, the two of them were teleported to the area of the spatial storm. After exiting the teleportation array, Night Sorrow looked around and said, Xuexi, the spatial storm has weakened. Back then, our teleportation array was about 300 feet away from the edge of the storm. Now, it's about 1,500 feet away. I can see it. If we didn't have the teleportation array as a benchmark, it wouldn't be easy to judge. Now that we have the teleportation array as a benchmark, we can clearly judge the weakening of the spatial storm, said Xuexi. But it's hard to say how long it will take to disperse. According to the map, there are still 200 miles left. It has weakened by more than 1,000 feet in the past few months, so it will take another 2 or 3 years. Night Sorrow calculated and said, there are spatial soul-eating beasts and spatial soul-eating beasts in the spatial storm. It seems your judgment is correct. This is definitely the same spatial storm as the one around Haotian City. Xuexi's soul power was very strong. She had already discovered something without Night Sorrow noticing. The spatial storm here has shrunk a little. I also found that the intensity of the energy storm has weakened a lot. Night Sorrow flashed to the periphery of the storm and observed. Indeed. Let's go back to the Realm C and take a look. Then, we can judge which side is weakening faster. That way, when it's about time, we'll have a choice and an advantage, said Xuexi to Night Sorrow. Then what are we waiting for? Let's go. Night Sorrow then flew toward the teleportation array. Can't you wait? How ungentlemanly, said Xuexi unhappily as she caught up with Night Sorrow. You're a saint. How can you lose me? Night Sorrow glanced at Xuexi and then entered the teleportation array. After teleporting to the spatial tunnel in the Medicine Valley region, the two of them did not stop. They immediately returned to the Nine Domains world and teleported to the Pill Tripod Square. After arriving at How High City, Xueshi started flying with Night Sorrow. She flew at full speed, which was slightly faster than the airship. Xueshi hugged Night Sorrow's shoulder. How does it feel to fly at full speed? It feels great, especially the fragrance on your body. It smells so good, Night Sorrow said. That's not what you used to say, Xueshi turned to look at Night Sorrow and said. Wasn't I under a lot of pressure? I felt like I was a thief, Night Sorrow said. I can understand. You are calm now, so you can enjoy this feeling in peace, right? Xueshi looked at Night Sorrow and said. In fact, it wasn't just Night Sorrow. Xueshi felt the same way too. The pressure of not being accepted was hard for her to bear. Soon, Night Sorrow and Xueshi arrived at the island where Xueshi used to live. The island was occupied, but the two of them didn't care. It was normal for others to come to an unoccupied island. Fortunately, there weren't many people in the area where they used to live, so it didn't affect their cultivation and exploration. After entering the Realm Sea, the two of them arrived at the spatial turbulence. Night Sorrow, your speed has indeed decreased. How do you feel? Xueshi's body flashed, avoiding the spatial turbulence's attacks. At the same time, she looked at Night Sorrow and asked. Yes. According to the current intensity, we can get close to Haotian City first, and it won't be long before we get there, Night Sorrow said. I'm counting on you. My speed is fast, but there are definitely no gaps in the spatial storm. Speed is useless. We need to be able to withstand it and break through the spatial turbulence's blockade, Xueshi said. I understand. What we need to do now is to improve our strength. The stronger the protective energy, the more we can withstand it. Let's go back first. Night Sorrow called out to Xueshi and retreated to the periphery of the spatial storm. Then, he brought Xueshi into the Pagoda of Time. Your true Qi cultivation is now at the mid-4th rank. If you eat the Dragon Spirit Pill, it'll be a waste of time. Xueshi looked at Night Sorrow and said. I don't plan to quickly improve my true Qi cultivation. I want to improve my body's cultivation. It's not too far away, Night Sorrow said. After cultivating for a while, Night Sorrow's myriad Dao Tome had reached the late 3rd rank of the soul refinement realm. He wasn't far from the peak of the 3rd rank. Then the two of us should cultivate more. While helping you improve your cultivation, my wind origin body can also improve. Xueshi looked at Night Sorrow and said. I think so too. When you're shy, you're really different. Night Sorrow looked at Xueshi's blushing face. I wasn't shy in the past because I didn't care about anything. Now, I'm a little embarrassed. Xueshi said. Then, Xueshi turned her hair back to its original silver color. The silver hair with water ripples added a flirtatious aura to her. The two of them were familiar with each other. After enjoying the feeling, the two of them began to cultivate. The two of them focused on Xueshi's cultivation. Night Sorrow only needed to circulate the energy of his myriad Dao Tome. After Xueshi's wind origin body entered Night Sorrow's body, it automatically circulated with the energy of his myriad Dao Tome. It nourished the energy of Night Sorrow's myriad Dao Tome. At the same time, it also nourished Night Sorrow's body. After resting, Xueshi put on a gauze robe and brewed a pot of tea. This is not bad. It's comfortable and it can improve my cultivation. Night Sorrow said with a smile. Translator, Nyoibo Studio Editor, Nyoibo Studio, yes. That's why many cultivators are researching on dual cultivation methods. However, some people take the evil path in order to improve their cultivation quickly. They use yin to nourish yang or yang to nourish yin. It's an action that harms others to benefit oneself. It's despised by cultivators. Xueshi poured a cup of tea for herself and said. I know. I was almost cheated by you. Night Sorrow muttered softly. Night Sorrow, I didn't want to do it. I was forced to the point of no return. Let's not talk about this. It's really embarrassing. I also paid the price. Xuexi's voice was a little soft. This was a stain in her life. I'm sorry. I won't talk about this in the future. I won't mention what happened between us to anyone else. Hearing Xuexi's soft voice, Night Sorrow suddenly felt a little guilty. It was mainly because Yinshi's attitude touched his heart. Who didn't miss it? Xuexi raised her head and looked at Night Sorrow. She knew that Night Sorrow's attitude had changed. He knew how to take care of her. It could be said that he would feel sorry for her in the future. Chapter 796. Night Sorrow hugged Xuexi and nodded. He understood Xuexi's feelings. Xuexi had taken the initiative to give him what she thought was the most precious thing in her heart. It was also a sign of friendship. Do you understand? Xuexi seriously looked into Night Sorrow's eyes. I'm not stupid. We didn't have a good beginning, but we will have a perfect ending. Night Sorrow smiled at Xuexi. You're right. This is a perfect ending for me. Xuexi nodded her head. She was really happy. You're right. To Xuexi, the beginning between her and Night Sorrow was dark and unsightly. But now, not only had she obtained the essence chi she wanted to strengthen herself, she had also obtained Night Sorrow's feelings. Xuexi knew very well how outstanding Yi Shang was, so she knew that she had profited this time, profited greatly. We'll take our time in the future. I also apologize for my past actions. Night Sorrow moved Xuexi's body and looked at her. You don't have to be like this. Everything you did was because you were forced. It was all because of me. I know that very well. Xuexi looked at Yi Shang with tears in her eyes. Alright, don't cry. The past is the past. Let's meditate and cultivate, Night Sorrow said with a smile. Xuexi couldn't bear to look back on the past few days. Yi Shang had also shouldered a huge amount of pressure. He felt guilty towards Sikong Chuyu and the other two, and he felt guilty towards his own conscience. Now that he could face the past, it was also a relief for him. After resting for 2 hours, the two of them continued cultivating in the chaotic streams of space. When they were resting again, Xuexi told Night Sorrow that she had given Ji Yuhao some time crystals. With the full support of the Ji Yu family, Ji Yuhao's cultivation base would definitely improve quickly. So she told Night Sorrow to be careful when he saw Ji Yuhao. Hee, you tricked me again. However, I am not afraid of him. If we meet, let's see who is stronger, Night Sorrow said with a smile. After seeing his parents, Night Moon stood up again. This made Night Sorrow feel relieved. Ji Yuhao could not give him any pressure. I'm sorry. Back then, our standpoints were different. At that time, I was thinking from the perspective of the Qingtian region, so I thought the young people of the Qingtian region would be more outstanding. As for Sumu, I also took him as a disciple from the perspective of the future of the Qingtian region. His temperament is no different from Ji Yuhao's, said Xuexi. It was Yin Shi who helped Ji Yuhao and Sumu. It has nothing to do with you. You are now my friend and my woman, Xuexi. Night Sorrow reminded Xuexi, mainly because he didn't want her to bear the pressure. Yes, there is no Yin Shi in this world. There is only Night Sorrow's friend, Xuexi. If anyone dares to harm Night Sorrow, I will kill him. After hearing Night Sorrow's words, she knew that Night Sorrow was thinking for her. Xuexi also made a decision. That was, no one could ruin her current life, and no one could hurt Night Sorrow. Hee, that's right. Let's continue with our cultivation. Night Sorrow looked at Yin Shi and said with a smile. Yin Shi also responded to Night Sorrow with a smile. It was a sweet smile that came from the bottom of her heart. After recovering, Night Sorrow stretched his waist. How do you feel? How far are you from breaking through? But don't worry, the storm is still very strong. Yin Shi looked at Night Sorrow and said. I will try my best. Night Sorrow nodded. When the storm subsides to a certain extent, you will almost break through. Clear Sky City was the #1 city in the 9 regions world in the ancient times. Clear Sky Saint King was also the first Saint King. He suppressed an era. If he left something behind, it would be a heaven-defying opportunity. Shueshi said. Shueshi, what is the highest level you can reach with your cultivation technique? Night Sorrow asked. The peak of the Saint Realm. There is no cultivation technique to enter the Saint King realm. Shueshi explained. Is there a difference between the Saint Realm and the Saint King realm? Night Sorrow asked puzzledly. Above the Saint Realm is the Saint King realm. The Saint King realm is a relatively special realm. It is similar to the false pellet realm between the essence gathering realm and the core condensing realm. The difference is that this is a realm that no cultivator can cross. Once you break through the Saint King realm, you will reach rank 8. Shueshi's general knowledge and experience were countless times better than Night Sorrow's. Rank 8 was the undying realm. It was also called the King realm. However, in the ancient books of the 9 regions world, there were only such records. There was no such cultivator. There is no end to cultivation and effort. Shueshi, let us set out towards this goal. Yishan waved his hand at Shueshi. Shueshi smiled at Night Sorrow. I didn't dare to have such thoughts before, but now I do. Then, Night Sorrow thought of something. The golden growler's body was not dead, and its soul was not destroyed. The characteristics it showed were that it was not a Saint Realm cultivator. It was similar to the undying realm that Shueshi mentioned. However, Night Sorrow did not tell Shueshi. Some things were better kept to himself. If he told others, it would bring pressure to others. Night Sorrow and Shueshi cultivated very hard. They worked hard to enter Haotian City in advance. After cultivating for half a month, Night Sorrow felt that the myriad Tao Tome was on the verge of leveling up. So, he greeted Shueshi. I will help you nourish it. You can level up later. This will be better for your foundation. Shueshi looked at Night Sorrow and said. Then I'll have to trouble you. Yishang nodded. After 3 days, Night Sorrow raised the cultivation of the myriad Tao Tome to level 4 of the spirit refinement realm. Not only did his body's defense increase, but his soul power also increased a lot. After leveling up, Night Sorrow stretched his body. The energy in his body moved, making a crackling sound. C7Y chapter on Cool 0-inch. Congratulations, but don't think about going to Haotian City first. Stabilize your cultivation first. Shueshi looked at Night Sorrow and said. Okay, we will always be ahead of others, Yishan said with a smile. Shueshi nodded. She was happy for Night Sorrow because ordinary people at Night Sorrow's age would not be so calm. With Shueshi's help, Night Sorrow, who had stabilized his cultivation for 2 days, decided to continue strengthening his elemental power. The power of Desolates was of the time attribute. When his elemental power was full, his body would be strong. After absorbing another half of the Desolate Stone, the elemental power in the myriad Tao Tome was strengthened to saturation. Night Sorrow strengthened his body again, but this time it was not as painful as last time. After leaving the space-time pagoda, Night Sorrow decided to charge toward Haotian City. Even if he could not resist, he could use the spatial crack to travel. There would be no danger of being destroyed by the spatial turbulence. Shueshi, wait for me here. This time, I will fight. No matter what, I have to reach Haotian City. Night Sorrow said to Shueshi, who was beside him. But what if you can't hold on halfway? Shueshi was a little worried about Night Sorrow. Enter the space-time pagoda. Night Sorrow told her his plan. Take me with you. Shueshi nodded. She knew that Night Sorrow had made his decision. In the past, I would take you with me because I was worried. Now, I am very relieved and do not want to take risks with you, Night Sorrow said to Shueshi. Chapter 797. In the past, Night Sorrow would have been worried about Shueshi's situation. He was afraid that she would harm his parents and family. But now, he knew that she wouldn't. She was no longer the silver dusk sacred of the past. She was a woman of flesh and blood. You're afraid that you'll implicate me, but I'm not afraid. She shook her head. But I'm afraid. I've never done anything to betray my heart. This is the only time I've done something like this to you. Now that you've changed, I can also face my heart. If something happens to me, the soul power in your divine pearl will scatter. If nothing happens to me, then we'll always be friends. With that, Night Sorrow drew an arc and entered the realm sea. You bastard. Stop right there. I said I'm not afraid. She's body flickered as she chased after Night Sorrow. But at this time, Night Sorrow used his spiritual strength to make she fall onto the beach. Seeing Night Sorrow's figure disappear into the realm sea, she cried. She knew that Night Sorrow was doing this for her own good. Night Sorrow was worried that he wouldn't be able to come back after entering the realm sea and would implicate her. But she really wanted to accompany Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow entered the chaotic space and charged forward. The reincarnation spear in his right hand was constantly brandishing, scattering the chaotic space attacking him. After advancing 15 miles, Night Sorrow didn't use a protective barrier. He wanted to conserve as much energy as possible. After advancing for more than 40 miles, Night Sorrow raised his protective barrier. He couldn't use too much of his body's energy, as that was the key to his defense. After using the spatial protective chi shield, Night Sorrow slashed forward. After advancing 50 miles, Night Sorrow felt that he had used up a lot of energy. He decisively consumed Life Spirit Elixir and Origin Spirit Elixir to replenish the myriad Tao Tomes and Bloodlines energy. At the same time, he used his Void True Chi to resist the spatial storms. The spatial turbulence storm at Night Sorrow's location was very strong, and he was already under a lot of pressure. At this time, he was only halfway through the journey, and the spatial turbulence ahead was even more violent. Night Sorrow controlled his protective chi cover to slash forward. The reincarnation spear in his hand trembled as he aimed it at the chaotic spatial flow that was charging towards him. As for the spatial soul-devouring beast, Night Sorrow had already ignored it. This was because the spatial soul-devouring beast could not break through his protective barrier, nor could it break through his body. With these two layers of insurance, Night Sorrow was confident that the true threat was the spatial turbulence. After another 20 li, Night Sorrow's energy reserves were almost depleted. At this time, Night Sorrow used the spatial crack and flashed into the spatial crack. Entering the spatial crack, Night Sorrow's figure flashed and entered the space-time treasure pagoda. Then, he took out a pile of high-grade spirit stones and threw them into the space. Little Kong, use all your strength to stabilize the space-time treasure pagoda. Don't let the space-time treasure pagoda get swept away by the spatial turbulence. You need to recover quickly. I will control it myself. The consumption is astonishing. Shao Kong reminded Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow consumed the Origin Spirit Elixir and Life Spirit Elixir and started to recover at full speed. He had to race against time as he was worried that Shao Kong would not be able to hold on. Night Sorrow recovered at full speed and only used 15 minutes to recover to his peak state. Through his soul power, Night Sorrow discovered that the spatial turbulence in the spatial crack was no less violent than the spatial storms in the realm's sea outside. It was much stronger than the spatial turbulence he encountered when he tore open the space beside the lake in the city in the sky. It corresponded to the outside world. This made Night Sorrow understand why the spatial turbulence he encountered when he tore open the space was stronger. Since this was the case, Night Sorrow felt that there was no need to enter the spatial crack again. It was the same to fight in the spatial turbulence in the realm sea. After exiting the spatial crack, Night Sorrow used his spatial protective chi cover and brandished his reincarnation spear to continue charging forward. This time, Night Sorrow's charge only covered a distance of 12 miles before exhausting all of his energy. Night Sorrow let Shao Kong sink to the bottom of the realm's sea while he started to recover at full speed. Shao Kong shrunk his body so that he could bear less of the impact and consume less energy. Even so, the the consumption of high-grade spirit stones was astonishing. Night Sorrow used the Origin Spirit Elixir and Life Spirit Elixir to replenish his energy instantly. This way, Night Sorrow only needed 15 minutes or even less to recover. Every time Night Sorrow rested, Shao Kong would consume several hundred spirit stones. If it were other cultivators, they would not be able to withstand such consumption. Night Sorrow had entered the alternate space several times and collected a lot of top-grade and high-grade spirit stones. In addition, he had also collected a lot of spirit stones in the Red Leaf Imperial Palace. Therefore, he did not care about this consumption. Even if he had to consume 10 top-grade spirit stones each time, Night Sorrow could still withstand it. What he was most worried about, and what he did not want to see the most, was not being able to establish himself in Clear Sky City. Night Sorrow was getting closer and closer to Clear Sky City as he fought against the spatial storm again and again. However, Night Sorrow's speed was reduced to an extreme. She was very anxious, but she could not see through the spatial turbulence and could not use her soul power to probe. Her soul power would be destroyed once it entered the spatial turbulence. However, she was sure that Night Sorrow was safe because Night Sorrow's soul power was still revolving in her divine pearl. Half a day passed. Night Sorrow had rested more than 20 times and Clear Sky City was getting clearer and clearer in front of him. Kill! Night Sorrow shouted in his heart and continued to attack. Although the consumption was great, Night Sorrow could still bear it. In the evening, Night Sorrow rushed out of the spatial turbulence in the Realm Sea and landed on the land of Clear Sky City. However, the spatial turbulence still existed. Originally, the soul-devouring beasts in the spatial turbulence were only as thick as a thumb. However, the soul-devouring beasts here were as thick as a baby's arm. However, Night Sorrow's 7-star Brilliant Moon Spear's extreme kill could still kill them. Night Sorrow rushed towards the center of Clear Sky City. He felt that the spatial turbulence was much smaller in places with buildings. Most importantly, 7 New Ta Chapter DN Festival. After moving forward with difficulty for a while, Night Sorrow flashed into the Pagoda of Time and Space. Then, he controlled the Pagoda of Time and Space and smashed it into the hard ground. Then, he flashed into the Pagoda of Time and Space. Night Sorrow, you don't have to worry. Underground, my consumption is almost negligible. Shao Kong reminded Night Sorrow. After relaxing, Night Sorrow directly sat on the steps of the Pagoda of Time and Space. This day was a desperate day for Night Sorrow. He was racing against time because he didn't know how long it would take and whether he could reach Clear Sky City. Therefore, he didn't dare to relax. It's like eating spirit stones. After drinking a mouthful of wine and recovering to his peak state, Night Sorrow murmured in a low voice. Because the consumption was too great, a storage ring with high-grade spirit stones was empty. However, Night Sorrow knew that the consumption wouldn't be much because Shao Kong could enter the ground. Such a situation made Night Sorrow feel at ease. No matter how strong the spatial turbulence was, he was not afraid because he had a foothold and a place to rest. In other words, he could definitely get close to the heaven-sealing Great Hall. Chapter 798. After completely recovering, Night Sorrow continued to move forward. Currently, he could see the towering heaven-sealing hall, but it was very blurry. It was still very far away. The space protective chi shield cut forward, and the nothingness protective chi shield melted forward. Yi Shang kept getting closer to the center of Hao Tian City. 2 hours later, Night Sorrow felt a change. The intensity of the spatial turbulence had decreased. This was a good sign. Night Sorrow continued to move forward. After another 2 hours, the spatial turbulence had completely disappeared. At this time, night fell. Night Sorrow thought for a moment and smashed the spacetime pagoda into the ground. Then, he entered the pagoda. Night Sorrow, this place is extraordinary. I feel a suppression. The suppression comes from the center of the city. It's hard to say what's going on. Little Kong communicated with Night Sorrow. The first ancient sacred city. It's hard to predict what's going on. Let's go steadily. If there's danger, I'll use the spatial fissure and directly enter the spatial turbulence. After Night Sorrow finished speaking, he began to cultivate. After an intense day of fighting, he was now improving his cultivation and calming his emotions. She's heart also felt more at ease. After a day, Night Sorrow was fine. This meant that the problem was not big. He had survived what he needed to. After resting for a while, Night Sorrow walked out of the space-time pagoda at dawn. Dead City. What entered Yishang's eyes was a ghost town that had been eroded by the passage of time. The buildings were all dilapidated, and the area behind Yishang was empty because everything had been torn apart by the spatial turbulence. Night Sorrow slowly walked forward. Although he knew that there was still a distance to the center of the city, Night Sorrow did not want to fly. He came to Clear Sky City to investigate, so he could not miss anything. Night Sorrow walked slowly in the city. The chilly wind in the air made him feel uncomfortable. He felt that the operation of his soul was affected. When he looked up, he found that there were remnant souls in the wind. They were unconscious remnant souls that were growling. After that, Night Sorrow tried to activate his Heavenly Void Pearl. The Heavenly Void Pearl shone with a purple light. It lit up Night Sorrow's godly sea and forced the haze out of his mind. Lingering spirit. Night Sorrow knew that these remnant souls were very strong when they were alive, but for some reason, they had lost their consciousness. Walking in the city, Night Sorrow saw skeletons and weapons that could no longer be used due to the erosion of time. Night Sorrow knew that these were weapons that were below rank 5. If they were spirit weapons, then they would not have been eroded by time. There were also some broken storage rings and some scattered spirit stones. They had already turned pale and no longer contained any energy. Night Sorrow continued to walk through the city. Looking at the broken tiles, broken beams, and dilapidated skeletons, Night Sorrow's heart was very heavy. All of this told Night Sorrow about the tragedy of the war. After traveling 1,000 miles, Night Sorrow rested. He found that as he moved forward, the traces of the spatial storm were getting smaller and smaller. However, more and more people died in battle. Night Sorrow still did not see any resources. It seemed that there was nothing other than skeletons. He felt that this should not be the case. With so many people dying in battle, it was impossible for there to be no resources. Night Sorrow continued to move forward and investigate. However, the reality was still the same. Some of the weapons looked very domineering, but when he touched them, they turned to dust. This situation made Night Sorrow understand. He felt that the weapons just now were spirit weapons, but their spirit chi had been sucked away. Cool. Night Sorrow then began to fly forward. All the weapons and spirit stones' energy had been sucked away. This was definitely not a coincidence. No matter how much he investigated, he would not find anything. Supreme Sky City was just too big. It was 7 or 8 times the size of Sky Bearing City, Supreme Clarity City, and Dongxian City. Night Sorrow quickly flew for 4 hours before arriving at the center of the city. After landing, Night Sorrow saw an energy barrier emitting light. There were many corpses around the energy barrier. They were like moths flying into a flame. The surroundings were full of skeletons. In the middle of the energy barrier was a large hall that reached the clouds. There were 3 shining words in the hall: Heaven Sealing Hall. Looking at the energy barrier, Night Sorrow did not know what to do. This was because he could feel the power of the energy barrier. After standing in front of the energy barrier and pondering for a while, Night Sorrow circulated the energy of the myriad Tao Tome to protect himself. After that, he propped up the Nihility protective chi barrier and reached out to touch the energy barrier. When Night Sorrow's arm touched the energy barrier, the energy on the energy barrier circulated and instantly wrapped around Night Sorrow's body. However, it withdrew a moment later. Night Sorrow did not understand what was going on. This was because that powerful and incomparably terrifying energy barrier did not harm him. Night Sorrow's arm was now within the energy of the energy shield. Then, Night Sorrow took a step forward, and half of his body entered the energy of the energy shield. After sensing it again and confirming that the energy barrier did not harm him, Night Sorrow entered the energy barrier. Then, he crossed several meters of energy and entered the energy barrier. Turning around, Night Sorrow looked at the energy barrier that did not have any effect. He was a little dazed. He was sure that this energy barrier was very strong. It would not have any difficulty killing a venerable or even a saint. However, it did not make things difficult for him. Night Sorrow touched the energy barrier again and found that this terrifying energy barrier did not care about him at all. It did not have any intention of responding to him. Young man, the energy barrier was built with the 9 regions' origin energy as the foundation. Naturally, it will not harm the people of the 9 regions world. A voice entered Night Sorrow's ears, followed by a sigh. Who is hiding? Come out. Night Sorrow roared with the reincarnation spear in his hand. Fly forward. After flying for 100 miles, you will see me. The voice rang in Night Sorrow's ears again. Night Sorrow calmed down and felt that this voice made sense. This terrifying energy barrier did not harm him, which naturally meant that it recognized him as a person of the 9 regions world. This reason was very reasonable. Then, Night Sorrow flew forward and arrived at the heaven-sealing Great Hall in a moment. The heaven-sealing Great Hall gave Night Sorrow an oppressive aura. At this moment, Night Sorrow felt that he was very small, like a grain of sand in the vast ocean. He felt like he was looking up at the sky. Night Sorrow circulated the energy of the myriad Tao Tome and straightened his body. He did not like the feeling of being unable to stand straight. At this moment, a figure appeared 30 feet in front of Night Sorrow. It was a middle-aged man in a white robe who was sitting cross-legged. The middle-aged man had shoulder-length hair and his eyes were filled with the vicissitudes of life. At this moment, he was sizing up Night Sorrow. Young man of the 9 regions world, not bad. For 10,000 years, I have hoped to meet the people of the 9 regions world. I was also worried about meeting the people of the 9 regions world. Today, I still have to face them. The middle-aged man's voice entered Night Sorrow's ears, but his lips did not move. Chapter 799. There's no need to panic or be surprised. What you saw was a soul clone supported by a strand of my soul. There's not much time left, so I'll tell you the details and what you need to do, said the middle-aged man to Night Sorrow. While Night Sorrow was still in a daze, the middle-aged man began to tell him some things that no one knew. The middle-aged man was the Clear Sky Sacred King, who had been the city lord of Clear Sky City 10,000 years ago. However, he had fallen in the God Seal battle. That battle had been particularly tragic, and the flames of war had spread throughout the 9 regions. A peak expert from another world had pierced through the 9 regions world, shattering it. The 9 regions world had been pierced through because that expert had wanted to collect the 9 regions world's origins. The 9 regions world's origins had been shattered into 10 pieces. 9 of them had flown to the 9 continents, while the other had been collected by that expert. The result of the 9 regions world being pierced through was chaotic space. If it wasn't dealt with, the 9 regions world would be swallowed by the chaotic space. At that time, the Central Continent Saint King and Clear Sky Saint King were fighting side by side in Clear Sky City. Together, they used all of their cultivation and used a great method to move Clear Sky City to the area where the 9-domain world was pierced, suppressing the spatial turbulence. After moving Clear Sky City, the Central Plains Sacred King had died, and Clear Sky Sacred King's vitality had been greatly damaged. In order to stabilize the suppression, Clear Sky Sacred King had used his essence blood and spiritual strength to set up the 1000 Derivation Grand Formation to seal the shattered space. At the same time, he had also set up an energy barrier with the 9 regions world's origins as its core. The 9 regions world's origins energy barrier was the core of the 1000 Derivation Grand Formation, the Heaven Sealing Palace. Senior, what do you need me to do? Night Sorrow was filled with admiration for the Clear Sky Sacred King. It could be said that he had fallen to such a state because of the 9 regions world, and only a strand of his soul remained. Clear Sky City has appeared. That means the suppression is no longer stable. We need to stabilize the suppression. We need the 9 regions world's people to work hard, said Clear Sky's sacred king to Night Sorrow. I came here to know about this. This is my destiny. Tell me. As long as I can do something for the 9 regions world, I'll pay any price. Night Sorrow sighed. He knew that if he wanted to stabilize the suppression, he would have to pay a huge price. However, as a citizen of the 9 territories, he could not avoid it. Is life okay? Clear Sky Saint King's voice entered Night Sorrow's ears. Although I have many regrets, and although I feel that life has just begun, since this is my fate, I will accept it. Night Sorrow nodded. With someone like you from the 9 regions, it was worth it for us 3 Saint Kings to fight to the death. Young man, you did not disappoint me, the Clear Sky Saint King said. My abilities are limited. I can't compare to Senior, but I won't run away from what I should do and what I should bear, Night Sorrow said. You won't lose your life. The reason why the 1000 derivation Great Formation isn't stable is because my soul can't hold on any longer. It's about to disperse. I can't control and protect this Great Formation anymore. Since you're here, you'll replace me. If you give up something, you'll gain something. You'll definitely gain something from this decision, said Hao Tian Saint loudly. Clear Sky Saint King then told Night Sorrow that as long as Night Sorrow cultivated a spiritual clone, he could go to the Heaven Sealing Palace to guard it. The downside was that Night Sorrow's spiritual clone would never be able to leave the Heaven Sealing Palace. That was a loss, but the gain was even greater. As long as Night Sorrow's spiritual clone remained in the Heaven Sealing Palace, it would never die. In other words, even if my true body dies, this clone won't die. Night Sorrow was startled. That's right, I can't do that because I'm just a strand of my soul, not a soul clone. But you can do it, and that's not even the most heaven-defying part. The most heaven-defying part is that you left some essence blood for the Heaven-Sealing Great Hall to refine with your soul clone. Your soul clone is no different from your original body. It can even be said that if your soul is strong enough, you can cultivate a soul clone. Hao Tian Saint King's word stunned Yishang. You can do that? Night Sorrow was shocked. That's because there's a limit to cultivating a spiritual clone. Otherwise, you could rely on your true body to continuously cultivate spiritual clones, said Clear Sky Saint King enviously as he looked at Night Sorrow. Then why didn't Senior do that before you died? Asked Night Sorrow. It wasn't in any danger before, so how could it be obedient? Now that it knows the 9 regions are in danger of being destroyed, it knows how to cooperate, said Clear Sky Saint King. You still dare to speak ill of me? It's your incompetence that led to this situation. A mighty voice rang out, shaking Yishan so much that he had to take 2 steps back before he could stabilize himself. Hashtag the Tnet item spirit? Night Sorrow was shocked. No, the Heaven Sealing Palace is a special way for the 9 regions' essences to manifest themselves. Just now, the 9 regions' essences were reprimanding me. But since my soul is about to dissipate, it's fine if I'm reprimanded, said Clear Sky Saint King. I've cultivated a spiritual clone before, but it's still far from forming. I don't know when it'll form. If it's too late, then I can only enter with my true body. If I can't leave, then so be it, said Night Sorrow as he looked at the ice silk bag on his waist. Even if you haven't cultivated it, there's still time. Now, do as I say. Take out a container and release some essence blood. Throw the medium that contains your spiritual clone into it. Then, you don't have to worry about it, said Clear Sky Saint King to Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow took out a spirit jade pillar and cut off a section. Then, he waved his reincarnation spear and made a deeper container. Then, he slashed his left wrist with the reincarnation spear. Night Sorrow's attack only left a white mark on his left wrist. What is going on with you? Your essence energy has soared into the clouds. Your body is much stronger than my subordinate, the Fist Emperor, Li Feng. Sacred King Clear Sky, who was observing Yishang, noticed that there was something extraordinary about Yishang's body. Yes, I cultivate my body. Night Sorrow held the reincarnation spear and poured all his energy into it. Then, he slashed his left wrist again. This time, a wound opened and Night Sorrow's blood flowed into the jade container. At this time, Night Sorrow's blood was red with traces of gold. It was very different from ordinary blood. Even the blood from the five-clawed pterosaur's heart couldn't be compared to his blood. After a while, a lot of Night Sorrow's blood was stored in the jade container. Looking at his blood, Night Sorrow untied the ice silk bag on his waist. Then, he took out the void Tao stone that contained his spiritual clone and looked at Clear Sky Saint King. Don't hesitate. Quickly put it in, urged Clear Sky Saint King. Night Sorrow nodded and put the void Tao stone into the jade container. Then, he took 2 steps back. Chapter 800. Alright. Even if this king's remnant soul dissipates now, this spatial hole suppression won't be a problem. Now it's up to you, said the Clear Sky Sacred King. You don't need time, asked Night Sorrow. The Heaven's Sealing Hall will help you deal with it. The broken region will also be firmly suppressed. If there's anything else you don't understand, you can ask, said the Clear Sky Sacred King. I want to know who attacked our 9 regions world, and what their goal is. Night Sorrow took out a spirit jade stool and sat down. This is a long story, and it might be very stressful for you. Take your time to digest it, said the Clear Sky Sacred King. In the vast starry sky, there were 3,000 small worlds. Whether they were destroyed or born, they were all fated. Each world was on a different level. The 9 regions world was an ordinary world. Of course, it didn't have the qualifications to be called a world. 7 Look at Z, a chapter P. The 9 regions world was a subsidiary world of the Profound Heaven world. The Profound Heaven world was thousands of times larger than the 9 regions world. The Profound Heaven world had hundreds of subsidiary worlds like the 9 regions world. 50,000 years ago, the 9 regions world had still been a primitive world. Because of a huge battle in the Profound Heaven world, several sects and families had been defeated. The ancestors of those sects and families had broken through the world barrier and come to the 9 regions world to live. But no matter how they developed, they could never catch up to the Profound Heaven world. And the enemies of those sects and families had treated the 9 regions world as a place to raise materials. Every once in a while, they would carry out a massacre and take away the saint crystals of the 9 regions world's cultivators, using them as resources to raise their descendants. This period of time was 10,000 years. Every 10,000 years, there would be a massacre. The last time the enemy had come, they had discovered that the 9 regions world source was still intact. It was a greater threat to them, so they had sent out even stronger experts to destroy the 9 regions world source. There was a great war 10,000 years ago. That means it won't be long before they start killing again. Night Sorrow's face was filled with shock. Yes, the time is near, but it is hard to say exactly when. Right now, all we can do is stabilize the 9 regions world. If someone with great luck can refine the space origin or the small world's core, they can repair this hole in space. Then, the 9 regions world will have a chance to unite again. However, this is just a theory, Clear Sky Saint King said to Night Sorrow. I entered a minor world and obtained its core, but I was unable to refine it, said Night Sorrow. What did you say? You have the world's origin. The Clear Sky Saint King stood up, his eyes filled with shock. Yes, show me. Night Sorrow roared, and used all his energy to activate his heavenly fate jewel. After this period of hard work, Night Sorrow was just barely able to activate his heavenly fate jewel. Following Night Sorrow's activation, the heavenly fate jewel appeared between his eyebrows. It revolved once before returning to Night Sorrow's divine sea. The void attribute is actually a supreme attribute. There's hope for our 9 regions world. Clear Sky Saint King's body trembled with excitement. Senior, I don't know when I'll be able to refine it, said Night Sorrow. Don't worry. You're a mid-level venerable right now. Once you reach the saint realm, you'll definitely be able to refine it. At that time, you'll be able to control a world and fuse it with the heavenly fate jewel. Then you'll be the ruler of the 9 regions world, an existence with supreme law energy. If they want to descend, that's a joke, laughed the clear sky saint king. At this moment, Night Sorrow sensed some spatial fluctuations. Night Sorrow even felt joy. That was the joy of the 9 regions world's origin. Brat, your karmic luck is really domineering. However, being able to pass through a spatial storm with just a mid-level venerable proves your strength, said the clear sky saint king. It really isn't easy to talk about this. Originally, I was planning on coming to Clear Sky City to look for opportunities, to find a cultivation technique inheritance, and to get a title in the Heaven Sealing Palace. Who would have thought I'd meet Senior and learn so much, said Night Sorrow. If you want an inheritance, I have it. Later, my inheritance will be yours, said the clear sky saint king. I'm really lacking a cultivation technique, because my current chi cultivation technique can only reach the saint level. After that, I don't have any more, said Night Sorrow. That's not a problem. My clear sky scripture can cultivate chi to the peak of the king realm. However, I don't have a body tempering inheritance. Back then, my subordinate, the Fist Emperor, Li Feng, cultivated the myriad Tao treasured tome. It was a secret tome that caused a storm of blood in the profound heaven world. However, after Li Feng died in battle, the secret tome is no longer available, said the clear sky saint king. I'm currently cultivating the myriad Tao treasured tome. This myriad Tao treasured tome is the inheritance of the Fist Emperor, Li Feng, said Night Sorrow in surprise. You're cultivating the myriad Tao treasured tome? That's not right. Back then, Li Feng's cultivation base was higher than yours, but his body wasn't as strong as yours, said the clear sky saint king. Night Sorrow told the clear sky saint king that he had grasped the power of desolates and that the myriad Tao treasured tome had mutated. The power of desolates, that's the time attribute. You're truly the embodiment of the myriad Tao's love, said the clear sky saint king as he looked at Night Sorrow. At that moment, Night Sorrow felt a change in his soul doppelganger. The energy it contained was rapidly increasing. He was worried that if he continued to strengthen it, his compatibility with his main body would decrease. Seeing Night Sorrow's frown, the clear sky saint king asked. Night Sorrow told the clear sky saint king about his feelings and worries. After that, the clear sky saint king shook his head. He told Night Sorrow that he had taken his blood essence so that his doppelganger would be no different from his main body in the future. He could even have descendants. The other reason was to increase the compatibility. Therefore, there was no need for Night Sorrow to worry. The clear sky saint king then took out a spatial ring and handed it to Night Sorrow. However, he told Night Sorrow that other than a high-grade saint artifact sword and a cultivation technique inheritance, he didn't have anything else in his collection. It wasn't that the clear sky saint king didn't have anything in his collection. It was just that he had used a special method to absorb all the spiritual chi and energy in Clear Sky City to set up the 9 regions origin energy barrier. This was also the reason why Night Sorrow hadn't been able to find anything in Clear Sky City. I'm very sorry that I didn't leave anything for you. However, it was worth it to leave behind this stable 9 regions origin energy barrier, said the Clear Sky Saint King. Senior, there's still something I don't understand. What's going on with the spatial turbulence outside Clear Sky City? Why does it feel like a formation? Asked Night Sorrow. That's a second seal placed by the enemy. They don't want people from the 9 regions world to come here again. Fortunately, you're here, said the Clear Sky Saint King. Chapter 801. I hope they won't attack so early. If they attack early, our 9 regions world won't be able to hold on. Night Sorrow was a bit worried. Don't worry about winning or losing. So what if we lose once? Our 9 regions world has already lost a few times. Losing again isn't a big deal. The main thing is to win in the end, said the Clear Sky Sage King. But many people will die like this, said Night Sorrow. When you go back, tell everyone you can talk to have a backup plan. Back then, the other two Sage Kings and I had a backup plan. You guys should do the same, said the Clear Sky Sage King. The Clear Sky Sage King's next words shocked Night Sorrow. The three Sage Kings had opened up three different spaces, the Night Moon Sea, the Void Path Sky, and the Central Prefecture. Which senior opened up the Night Moon Sea? Night Sorrow stood up. I opened it up for my family's descendants. Why do you know about the Night Moon Sea? Asked the Clear Sky Sage King. He looked at Night Sorrow. I know about the Night Moon Sea. My name is Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow said his name. Your surname is Night. That means you're my descendant. That's great. I'm Yi Qianhua, laughed the Clear Sky Sage King. He was truly happy. Originally, he was very happy that the 9 regions world's people had come here. Now that he knew Night Sorrow was his descendant, he was even happier. Ancestor, do you have no chance of living? Asked Night Sorrow. This is not a matter of opportunity. With the support of the 9 domain world's world origin energy, even a wisp of a remnant soul would not dissipate. Now, his lifespan has come to an end, Yi Qianhua said to Yi Shang. Can I use life spirit liquid? Asked Night Sorrow. It's no use. It's not a matter of resources. Resources can solve a problem. With the support of the Heaven's Sealing Palace, how can it not be solved? My lifespan is at its limit, sighed Yi Qianhua. Night Sorrow didn't say anything else. He knew that the old ancestor's lifespan was coming to an end, and he felt a little sad. It's nothing. It's very tiring for me to live like this, but it's also a form of relief. To be able to see my descendants before the end of my life is also a very gratifying thing. Tell me about the Yi clan situation, Yi Qianhua said. Then, Night Sorrow started to talk about what he knew, all the way to the current situation. Night Moon Dynasty, Moon Emperor Yi Tian. You are indeed a genius. Tianjin Tower was built by the Saint King of the Void Dao. You are the young master of the Tianji Tower, so you can have some influence. If there is no hope of victory in the battle, let everyone retreat first. Those people are only attacking the high-level cultivators. They are still waiting for the low-level cultivators to grow, so they will ignore them. Yi Qianhua said to Night Sorrow. Because Yi Qianhua was a soul, the two of them could only communicate. They couldn't drink or drink. Then, Night Sorrow said that he wanted to get a title. You can, but there is no way to cheat. You need to rely on your strength. The Heaven's Sealing Hall will set up a test. If you perform well, you will be given a title and receive the power of providence of the 9 zones, Yi Qianhua said to Night Sorrow. After resting for a while, Night Sorrow bowed to Yi Qianhua and walked towards the Heaven's Sealing Hall. He knew that this was very important to him. A title recognized by the 9 zones world was very important. With Night Sorrow's arrival, the Heaven's Sealing Hall's door opened. Yi Shang turned around to look at Yi Qianhua before walking in. Night Sorrow saw an endless staircase in front of him. He knew that this was the test. Stepping on the stairs, Night Sorrow felt the pressure. Just like at Danding Cliff and the Spacetime Pagoda, the pressure came in waves. However, Night Sorrow was still used to it. He had experienced this kind of test before, whether it was at Danding Cliff or the Spacetime Pagoda. As he walked, Night Sorrow calculated the pressure. After reaching level 400, Night Sorrow realized that the path forward was flat. He was not climbing upwards. Instead, he was moving forward against the pressure. However, as Night Sorrow walked forward for a while, the originally flat path once again appeared with rising steps. Night Sorrow was a little puzzled. He had reached the 400th step, which exceeded the pressure of a level 4 supremacy. There should not be rising steps. However, since the steps appeared, Night Sorrow would continue climbing. Since it was a test, and there was only one path, he could only continue climbing. Withstanding the pressure, Night Sorrow continued climbing. With his strong body, Night Sorrow reached the 500th step. Looking at the flat path ahead, Night Sorrow continued forward. After walking for a while, the rising steps appeared again. Night Sorrow took a deep breath and walked up the steps. Since there were steps, he had to go up. This time, Night Sorrow felt a lot of pressure. He then put up a protective shield and continued forward. With the Void Chi's protective shield's corrosive power, Night Sorrow was able to continue forward. After successfully climbing the 600th step, Night Sorrow's robe was soaked. At this time, Night Sorrow wanted to take out some origin spiritual liquid to replenish himself. However, he then realized that his storage ring was surrounded by a special energy, and he could no longer communicate with it. Night Sorrow shook his head. He understood. This was because the test did not allow the use of resources. Fortunately, Night Sorrow had his own way, and that was to slowly move forward and recover. Because he did not know what would happen next, it was important to recover his own energy. The pressure on the flat steps was not very strong. Night Sorrow recovered as he moved forward. When Night Sorrow's cultivation had recovered to 70%, the rising steps appeared again. It would be very difficult to get a title. This was Night Sorrow's thought. Looking at the steps in front of him, Night Sorrow took a deep breath. He shouted in his heart and began to climb. After reaching the 30th step, Night Sorrow could no longer hold on. At this time, Night Sorrow used spatial rend and slashed forward. The moment he broke through the pressure, Night Sorrow rushed up. After using spatial rend, Night Sorrow could rush up 20 steps. Then, the effect of the spatial rend would recover under the pressure. Night Sorrow then continued to use spatial rend. After 4 spatial rends, Night Sorrow reached the top of the 700th step. At this time, Night Sorrow was exhausted. There was no energy in his body. Just when Night Sorrow thought that he would be blown away by the pressure suddenly disappeared. The steps also disappeared. The place he was at had become a space rich in spirit chi. The first stage of the test has been completed. Night Sorrow has successfully passed the 3-level test. The second stage will begin in 2 hours. A voice sounded in Night Sorrow's ears. When Night Sorrow heard the voice, he began to meditate and recover. At this time, he felt that he could communicate with the storage ring. However, he did not need to eat resources to recover because the spirit chi here was very rich. Chapter 802. 2 hours later, Night Sorrow had recovered to his peak state. He stood up and prepared to take the second test. The first test is the foundation test. The second test is the soul test. As long as you can last for 8 hours, you pass. If you fall to the ground or faint, you fail. The voice sounded in Night Sorrow's ears. Then, the space around Night Sorrow began to change. It turned into a small island with stars above his head. Just as Night Sorrow was observing, a majestic pressure appeared and pressed down on Night Sorrow. Soul pressure. Because this was a test, not an attack, the pressure came slowly. Because of this, the Void Fate Jewel didn't put up any defenses. It could tell what was an attack and what could threaten Yi Shan's life. Only D equals W, all other QD equals P were pirated. Night Sorrow took out the spiritual jade block and sat down cross-legged. He began to circulate his soul power to resist the pressure. The majestic pressure continued to press down on Night Sorrow's spirit sea. However, Night Sorrow could withstand it. While circulating his soul power to defend, Night Sorrow also placed the energy that was attacking his spirit sea into his spirit sea. As his soul power revolved to defend, it also refined the energy. At this moment, Night Sorrow was not only taking the test, but also cultivating. Night Sorrow sat there steadily. Even if the pressure increased, he did not notice. Night Sorrow was so engrossed in his cultivation that he forgot about the test. The majestic pressure stopped increasing after a certain point. It continued to suppress him. The reason Yi Shan was able to withstand the pressure from his soul was mainly because he had started cultivating his soul force earlier. Others would only open their divine sea after reaching the 5th stage, but Yi Shang had already opened his divine sea when he was at the 4th stage. He had already begun cultivating his soul force, and his soul force had long since surpassed his cultivation level. Night Sorrow did not know how much time had passed. He woke up from the spatial turbulence. The second test requires you to skip 3 levels. 2 hours later, the final test will be the test of combat ability. The voice rang out once more. If the clear sky Saint King Yi Qianhua had not explained it to Night Sorrow would have thought that it was the voice of the artifact spirit. Now, he knew that it was not because the heaven-sealing Great Hall was not a treasure. It was a way to display the 9 regions' origin source. In this second test, Night Sorrow did not expend much energy. Now, he was waiting for the arrival of the third test. 2 hours later, the space changed again. This place changed into a large martial arts practice field, but the surroundings were like a cage, which meant that there was no way to escape during the battle. There are a total of 9 waves of energy warriors. You only need to defeat 4 waves to obtain a title. However, the more waves you can withstand, the higher your title will be. The voice of the 9 zones origin appeared in Night Sorrow's ears again. Night Sorrow grabbed the reincarnation spear from his back and walked to the center of the martial arts practice field. Night Sorrow was not afraid of battles. Then, an energy warrior appeared in the martial arts practice field. Night Sorrow saw that this was an opponent of the same level as him. While Night Sorrow was observing, this energy warrior charged towards Night Sorrow. He slashed out with his battle saber, and the saber aura was very violent. Night Sorrow propped up his protective shield and slashed horizontally to the side. Then, the reincarnation spear shook and executed the 7-star glorious moon spear, attacking the opponent. This energy warrior waved his saber to block, but Night Sorrow's 7-star glorious moon spear was not easy to block. Night Sorrow's spear broke the energy warrior's battle saber and pierced the energy warrior's chest. After being hit by Night Sorrow's spear, this energy warrior dispersed. After a while, 2 energy warriors appeared and charged towards Night Sorrow again. Night Sorrow's protective shield had the ability to cut and was very fast. These 2 energy warriors could not keep up with Night Sorrow's speed and were killed by Night Sorrow in 2 rounds. Night Sorrow had just taken a breather when 4 energy warriors appeared in the martial arts practice field. Night Sorrow waved his reincarnation spear and started the battle. After a while, the 4 energy warriors fell under Night Sorrow's spear again. However, Night Sorrow also realized that these energy warriors had different attributes, combat skills, body movements, and skills. Then, 8 energy warriors appeared and surrounded Night Sorrow again. Night Sorrow waved his reincarnation spear and started the battle. He had already survived 4 waves and obtained a title. Night Sorrow treated the following battles as training. As the battle continued, Night Sorrow had already forgotten the concept of the previous waves. This was because he was surrounded by energy warriors with different attributes and combat skills. Night Sorrow fought incisively and vividly. They were all at the same level and there was no energy suppression. It was a competition of combat skills. Night Sorrow was not afraid of this. After 2 hours of battle, a dense crowd of energy warriors appeared on the training field. Using his soul power to scan, Night Sorrow discovered that there were a total of 99 level 4 supremacies and 1 level 7 supremacy. This is the last round of the test. It is also a test that has never appeared before. Now, I will give you some time to rest. After 1 hour, the last round of the challenge will begin. Of course, you can choose to give up because you have already obtained a title. The voice appeared in Night Sorrow's ears again. I will fight. Night Sorrow said. Night Sorrow would not let go of such a chance to train. After sitting down with his legs crossed, Night Sorrow realized that the continuous battles had depleted his vital chi and myriad Tao Tome's energy. His soul power was also exhausted. He was too engrossed in the battle just now and did not pay attention to his own condition. After consuming the life soul liquid and origin spiritual liquid, Night Sorrow held the soul crystal in his hand and started to fully recover. After 15 minutes, Night Sorrow had almost recovered. However, Night Sorrow was still meditating and cultivating. At the same time, he was organizing his thoughts on how to face the last battle. Night Sorrow knew that such a difficult test would not appear for no reason. There must be a reason for it to appear. If he could get through it, it would only be beneficial for him. After pondering for a while, Night Sorrow stood up. He planned to use all his strength to get through the last round of the test. After displaying the reincarnation spear, Night Sorrow nodded, indicating that the battle could begin. As Night Sorrow nodded, all the energy warriors moved. All of them rushed towards Night Sorrow. The level 7 honorable energy warrior commander was at the front, holding a long spear in his hand. After one clash, Night Sorrow's body was sent flying. Before Night Sorrow could regain his balance, a battle blade slashed towards Night Sorrow's back. At this moment, Night Sorrow did something that would make anyone dumbfounded. He withdrew his protective shield. The energy warrior's battle blade landed on Night Sorrow's back. After cutting open his robe, it slid to the side. It did not break through Night Sorrow's defense at all. This was the reason why Night Sorrow withdrew his protective shield. He did not want to waste his vital chi. Anyway, a level 4 honorable energy warrior would not be able to break through his body. There was no need to waste his vital chi. Chapter 803. Night Sorrow did not care about the level 4 supremacy's attacks. He focused all his efforts on the level 7 supremacy energy warrior commander. The 7 Stars Glorious Moon Spear and Hand of Desolation continued to bombard the level 7 Supremacy Energy Warrior Commander. At this moment, the level 4 Supremacy Energy Warriors were no longer the level 4 Supremacy Energy Warrior Commander's assistants. Instead, they were his burdens. They were constantly blocking his path of movement and had endured too many of Night Sorrow's attacks for him. Spatial Rend. Night Sorrow roared. He performed the spatial rend, but he controlled its power. He could use the spatial energy, but there would not be any spatial rend. After performing the spatial rend, Night Sorrow activated his spatial energy shield. With a slash, he appeared in front of the level 7 Supremacy Energy Warrior Commander. Then, he performed the ultimate move of his 7 Stars Glorious Moon Spear art, 7 Stars Glorious Moon Extreme Kill. Unable to dodge, the Energy Warrior Commander could only block with his spear. As he blocked, a part of his spear was melted. After breaking the Energy Warrior Commander's spear, Night Sorrow controlled his reincarnation spear to charge forward and pierce the Energy Warrior Commander's chest. Night Sorrow shook his reincarnation spear and the Energy Warrior Commander's body was destroyed. After solving the biggest problem, Night Sorrow roared. He waved his reincarnation spear and started to fight with the other level 4 Supremacy Energy Warriors. Night Sorrow would not be injured when fighting with the level 4 Supremacy Energy Warriors. This was because his defense was stronger than his opponent's attack. It was only a matter of time before he defeated them. This battle was Night Sorrow's most satisfying battle. After an hour, Night Sorrow killed the last energy warrior with a single strike. You passed the test perfectly. The voice sounded. Night Sorrow looked at his torn battle robe. He changed into a new one and sat down cross-legged, planning to recover. Night Sorrow had just sat down cross-legged. Before he started to recover, a ball of light suddenly appeared. The light enveloped Night Sorrow, and under Night Sorrow's astonishment, the light shuttled back and forth within his body. After the time it took to brew a cup of tea, the light left Night Sorrow's body and turned into an energy body. I've investigated your situation. There are 2 titles that are suitable for you. Of course, you can also request for a title, but it's unknown whether you will be granted one, the energy figure said. GW, net first D hair, K, why is it unknown whether or not it can be given? Yi Shan didn't quite understand, so he asked. For example, if a supremacy passed the test and wanted the title of Invincible Supremacy, the title would not be given to him because he does not have the qualifications to be invincible, the energy figure explained. Then tell me which two titles are suitable for me, Night Sorrow said after thinking for a moment. He didn't have any titles in mind, so he wanted to hear what the energy figure had to say about the heaven-sealing Great Hall. Your true chi is of the void attribute, so you can be given the title of void. Your body has the potential to become immortal, so you can also be given the title of immortal, the energy figure said to Night Sorrow. Then I'll be called immortal, Night Sorrow said after thinking for a moment. He liked this title. Immortal Supremacy. This title is a bit big, but you have the qualifications. In the future, there won't be any more titles in the 9 regions world. This is the only title that belongs to you. Once you become a saint, you'll have to undergo another test. If you pass, you'll become an immortal saint, the energy figure said to Night Sorrow. I understand. Night Sorrow cupped his hands at the energy figure. The energy clone nodded and waved its arm. Suddenly, 2 golden characters appeared in the air. They were ancient characters, but Night Sorrow could recognize them. They were the 2 characters immortal. The 2 ancient characters churned in the air, constantly glowing. This title of yours is a peak title, and it contains a different meaning. In other words, the 9 regions world's origins acknowledge that you have the potential to become immortal. However, the 9 regions world's origins are broken, and I'm not a complete origin, so the amount of karmic luck I can give you is limited. Also, I heard your conversation with Sacred King Clear Sky. If you can repair the 9 regions world, I can control the 9 regions origins and fuse them into your body. When that time comes, you'll become the ruler of the 9 regions world. You'll be able to control the 9 regions world and prevent it from being invaded. In fact, the 9 regions world will be able to evolve into a supreme world, the energy figure said to Night Sorrow. But I know that 2 of the 9 regions origins have already recognized a master. Can the 9 regions origins be fused again? Will that affect them? Night Sorrow asked. Of course I know. Of the 9 domain essences, the Dongxian essence and Nanli essence have acknowledged me as their master, but that's only a superficial acknowledgement. My true self can take them back. My true self scattered the 9 domain essences all over the world in order to find a master for the 9 domains, but they aren't suitable. My true self isn't an essence body right now. I'm the core essence energy of the 9 domain essences, and I can control the 9 fragmented essences. If I want to take them back, I can. Should I take them back now? No, I don't want that. The people who refined the 2 origins are related to me. I don't want them to be hurt, Night Sorrow said. When you're able to mend the entire world, I'll consider leaving some origin energy for the 2 of you after retrieving the origin energy. It won't harm them either. The energy body, which was the 9 realms origin energy, explained to Night Sorrow. While Night Sorrow was communicating with the 9 regions origins, golden light appeared in the sky all over the 9 regions world. The golden light tumbled for a while and then turned into 2 symbols, which then turned into 2 ancient characters. The ancient characters floated high in the sky and shone in all directions. On an island in the realm sea, Xia Lanjun and the other saints had arrived at the eastern Xian region's camp. Wu Lingfei was also here. Everyone was looking at the 2 ancient characters dancing in the sky. A titled expert has appeared. It's actually an immortal titled expert. This has never happened before in the 9 regions world, said Long Xiansheng. Lord Long Xiansheng, what's going on? Asked Xialanjun. Someone entered the heaven sealing palace, passed the test, and obtained a taboo title. Who is it? Long Xiansheng narrowed his eyes and pondered. Senior, what is a taboo title? Asked Wu Lingfei. A title based on one's accomplishments and attribute is a taboo title. The appearance of such a title means that the heaven's sealing palace believes that the person who obtained the title can reach the peak of an attribute. Such a title shouldn't appear in the world, muttered Long Xiansheng. We can't even get close, but someone actually obtained a taboo title. What's going on? Nan Gansheng looked at the group of people in confusion. We can't, but that doesn't mean others can't. The 9 regions world is about to change, said Long Xiansheng. Just now, Dongxuan's origin qi trembled and wanted to leave my body. I couldn't suppress it, but it stabilized later, said Wu Lingfei. Chapter 804. The golden light bathed the Nine Regions world for a while before dispersing. Within the heaven-sealing palace, the two ancient characters in the air spun and merged into Night Sorrow's body. Cultivators have to fight against the heavens. The world is the same. It's also a fight against the heavenly Tao. The future of the Nine Regions world depends on you. The energy body sighed. Then can I bring others here to get a title? Asked Night Sorrow. Of course. You can leave now. The energy body waved its arm, and Night Sorrow's energy surged. Then Night Sorrow appeared at the entrance of the heaven-sealing palace. Good kid, you've become a titled immortal. That's really amazing. Clear Sky Saint King looked at Night Sorrow with gratification. It wasn't easy to get this title, said Night Sorrow with a smile. Clear Sky Saint King then told Night Sorrow about some of the problems with the Clear Sky scripture. Then Night Sorrow planned to leave. He planned to bring some people to the heaven-sealing palace to get a title. After all, the karmic luck of the Nine Regions world was a huge benefit. Night Sorrow, don't bring too many people in. The Nine Regions origin energy situation isn't too good right now. If you bring in a large group of people, it'll be a huge burden on her, said Clear Sky Saint King to Night Sorrow. Yes, I'll bring some people who are close to me, Yishan said. At this moment, a thought appeared in Yishan's mind, and that was to not exceed 20 people. This was the current limit of the Nine Regions origin energy. If it exceeded this number, she would not open the heaven-sealing hall. Night Sorrow knew that this was the Nine Regions origin energy's meaning. It'll be very difficult for you to go back and forth, said Clear Sky Saint King to Night Sorrow. Can you set up a teleportation formation? Asked Night Sorrow. It's useless. There are spatial storms raging outside Clear Sky City. When you teleport, it'll be easy for the spatial turbulence to destroy the spatial channel. The result will be death, said Clear Sky Saint King. Then I can only continue to travel through the void turbulence. Night Sorrow exhaled. There's nothing we can do about it, Clear Sky Saint King said. Following this, the Clear Sky Saint King told Night Sorrow that he wouldn't appear anymore. As for the other things, if it wasn't necessary, he shouldn't tell anyone else. Night Sorrow thought for a moment and understood. He knew that this would cause panic. Some things needed to be done by himself. Even if he told others, it would be meaningless. Child, you have to be careful. The Nine Regions world already knows about the immortal title. If you go out and bring others here, you won't be able to hide the fact that you have an immortal title. Killing people to steal fate has happened from time to time. Clear Sky Saint King said to Night Sorrow. I'll be careful. Night Sorrow nodded. Also, there's a map in the storage ring I gave you. It has the symbols of the world passages around the Nine Regions world. The Netherworld is a very warlike world. It often fights with the Nine Regions world. The Nether beasts are very powerful. They're the most warlike race under the Nether race. Clear Sky Saint King reminded Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow was stunned for a moment. Then he told him about the Supreme River Space and the Nether world, as well as the relationship between them and Clear Sky City. This is troublesome. War will happen sooner or later. The other thing you have to pay attention to is the Profound Mysteries realm. It's a human world and has a very strong desire to fight. They attacked us once, but they were defeated by Void Dao Saint King. You have to go and take a look. We can't let them rise, said Clear Sky Saint King. Isn't that tantamount to invasion? Night Sorrow said. He was a little disgusted by the idea of invasion. It's not invasion. Whether it's the Netherworld or the Profound Mysteries realm, they both want to take over our Nine Regions world. It's not the first time they've started a war. Attacking them is a form of defense. Clear Sky Saint King saw Night Sorrow's concern and smiled. Then I'm relieved. Since they want to take over our Nine Regions world, we'll fight back, Night Sorrow said. Remember, repairing the 9 regions world is the most important thing. Alright, I'll go to the sky's ceiling hall to recover a little. Then, I'll stabilize the 1000 derivation Great Formation. That way, when the spatial storm outside dissipates, Clear Sky City can still exist. The 9 regions origin protective shield is not afraid of the attacks of the Otherworlders. We'll kill as many as we can, but we're afraid of the 9 regions world's people destroying it. Later, I'll set up some formations. The 1000 derivation killing formation and 1000 derivation illusory formation are in the storage ring I gave you. You can come and go as you please in the future, Clear Sky Saint King told Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow understands. Night Sorrow nodded. After that, Night Sorrow left the sky ceiling hall and flew toward the edge of the realm sea. The chaotic spatial storm's existence gave Night Sorrow a headache. The main problem was that it consumed a lot of energy, but it was unavoidable. After spending a day and 2000 high-grade spirit stones, Night Sorrow returned to the island in the realm sea where he and Shweshi were staying. You're back. Shweshi threw herself into Night Sorrow's arms when she saw Night Sorrow. I'm back, and I even got a title, Night Sorrow said as he hugged Shweshi. I'm very angry. You abandoned me at a critical moment and ran away by yourself, Shweshi said as she punched Night Sorrow's shoulder. Night Sorrow wrapped Shweshi up and entered the Spacetime Pagoda. Shweshi immediately asked Night Sorrow about his trip to Clear Sky City.